Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto hides his dark secrets from Konoha part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Hokkaido, Japan, July 29th, 1996. Everybody's wearing a disguise to hide what they've got left behind their eyes. But me, I can't cover what I am. Wherever the children go, I'll follow them. Ka-chan? Uzumaki Kushina looked up from her guitar to see her 6-year-old son staring at her from the doorway. She smiled and hoped that he couldn't see the tear tracks in the dark room. Why are you crying? But then, Naruto's never been stupid. Kushina never was one to lie, especially not to her son. The lyrics make me sad, she explained as she set down the guitar and opened her arms for Naruto to crawl into. She started to relax when she breathed in the smooth, childish scent of his little body, reassured that she was never alone. She would always have her baby boy. Why? Large blue eyes looked up at her and Kushina knew that she would give in to them, as she always did. It was the curse of all mothers to be so much in love with their child that they could never refuse them anything. They remind me of someone, she said, trying to be vague and still answer his question. Naruto frowned and she knew that he wasn't satisfied. Who? Your dad, she said, and hugged him tighter to her chest. She didn't want to think about him, but God, Naruto had a right to know, if anyone had a right to know. He was as much Minato's child as he was hers, no matter how much she tried to forget. Not that it was easy, with how much Naruto looked like him. Tu-chan? Naruto asked, his voice muffled as he pressed his head into her neck. Why? It reminds me of our relationship, Kushina said and then hesitated. She wasn't sure how much she wanted to reveal to a 6-year-old. But her mouth made the decision for her, and she continued to talk. It reminds me of how it ended. Will I ever meet Tu-chan, Ka-chan? Naruto asked, and he looked up from her neck with those impossibly wide blue eyes. Kushina closed her eyes and pulled Naruto close to her again. Maybe someday, Naruto. Someday. Minneapolis, Minnesota, September 26, 2007. 1. Konoha Academy of the Arts looked oddly imposing in the early morning light. Normally it was a cheerful sight. The building was made of old, dark red brick with none of the sleek silver metal that Minneapolis seemed to be made of these days. It had wide, black iron gates with a fairly long driveway into the huge parking lot and various buildings that held dozens of rooms for classes, practice, and private study. Compared to the modernized Minnesota of today, Konoha was like a look into the past. When mothers stayed home to watch reality TV, along with their kids, fathers came home to a wonderful, well-cooked meal, kids listened to what their elders told them, and everything was generally better in the world. But on the morning of September 26th, the rising sun had managed to hit Konoha Academy in a way that made the normally homey building look dark and gloomy. It didn't ease the nerves of the school's newest student, who was standing outside of the front doors, staring at the golden door knocker as if it would magically open by itself. No, Naruto Uzumaki, too, was not pleased with the eerie look Konoha had managed to produce. He'd already been anxious about going to a new school, and this was just making it worse. He did not want to go inside the school, but he had no doubt that if he left he would just be forced to return. With a sigh and a shudder he carefully opened the door, wincing slightly when it creaked on its hinges. He officially hated old schools. Contrary to its outwardly stately appearance, the inside of Konoha was oddly modernized. The hallways were bright and shiny, reflecting the thick overhead lights back onto the ceiling. Pictures, notices, and school-related things were hung up in certain places on the walls, adding a splash of color. Naruto sighed with relief when he saw a sign labeled Main Office close to the front door. He wasn't sure what he would have done if he wouldn't have been able to find it immediately. Compared to his old public school, the main office was officially lavish. The carpet was colored a deep green, with the school's official symbol of a stylized leaf printed in the middle of the floor, reminding Naruto vaguely of the Oval Office 3. A long, round desk was sitting in the back of the room, with a pretty secretary sitting behind it, talking on the phone. Off to the side was a door labeled Headmaster's Office, with a bench sitting next to it for the troublemakers of the day to wait in. Naruto stood awkwardly by the secretary's desk, waiting for her to finish talking on the phone while he took in everything in the office. There were some newspaper clippings on the wall next to the desk, old reviews of Konoha concerts and plays, among other articles. He caught flashes of titles as his eyes moved over the board. Konoha does it again. Private art school astounds orchestra hall with its talent. Fire burns huge part of art school, 12 students die. Headmaster promises remodeling by May. Surprise! Konoha can sing. Art school choir makes spectacular performance at orchestra hall. Music isn't all they can deal. Konoha art show brings much admiration. LES miserables performed by Konoha Art School performs less miserables in school auditorium. Can I help you? Naruto turned away from the newspaper clippings to see the secretary giving him a smile. I'm a new student here, he told her, a hand going to the back of his neck in a nervous gesture. Can I get my schedule and locker number? And maybe a map? He added in a little desperately, making the secretary chuckle. Yes, I'll get them right away. You would be Naruto Uzumaki, right? He nodded and watched as she deftly checked her computer. Headmaster Sarutobi will want to see you, so you can wait for him now. Here's your schedule and locker number. Do you need a lock? Naruto shook his head and accepted the sheets of paper she handed him. All right then. Here's a map, you'll most definitely need it. If you have any trouble at all, let me know and I'll do my best to help. The headmaster's office is that way. She waved a hand in the direction of the door Naruto had spotted earlier, and he gave her a smile before heading over and slumping into the bench. Sighing, he looked down at the sheet of paper the secretary had given him. Name, Uzumaki, Naruto grade, 11, Junior, Division, Music, Piano Student ID, 691103 Locker Number, 208. Student Schedule, First Semester. AP Musical Composition and Theory, 7:45 to 8:25, M. Uchiha, Room A210, Calculus, 8:30 to 9:25, M. Ibiki, Room A321, Advanced Musical and World History, 9:30 to 10:15, M. Namikaze, Room A122, AP World Literature, 10:20 to 11:10, Y. Kurenai, Room A102, Physics, 11:15 to 12:20, A. Mitarashi, Room A206, Japanese 4, 12:25 to 1:30, M. Guy, Room A312, Private Musical Lessons, 1:35 to 2:25, K. Hataki, Practice Room A07. Naruto blinked and groaned. He was going to have to do calculus in the morning. Why couldn't Japanese have been one of his early classes? Japanese was the easiest class in the world for him. He knew it fluently after living most of his life in Japan. And his first class just had to be music theory. He was going to have to think in the morning. Naruto groaned again. Is your schedule that bad? An amused voice broke into his thoughts, and the blonde looked up to see an old man staring down at him, his dark eyes crinkling as he smiled. Naruto blinked and then realized that this must be the headmaster. No, it's just I'm not much of a morning person, and I have a lot of hard classes pretty early, he said sheepishly, making Headmaster Sarutobi laugh. I sympathize with you, Mr. Uzumaki. If you had come earlier in the year, perhaps we could have arranged something, but with your late start your classes are set in stone for the semester. Perhaps next semester you'll have a free period in the morning. Naruto smiled up at the older man, surprised that he was so willing to get rid of Naruto's problem. I like him, he decided as he stood to follow Sarutobi into his office. The headmaster's office was just as lavish as the outer office. Large windows overlooked the woods surrounding the back of Konoha, an oddity in the Minneapolis region that the school was only able to get because they lived on the outskirts. A large oak desk stood just in front of the windows, on top of the same green carpet that decorated the main office. Pictures and banners covered the walls. The headmaster gestured for Naruto to take a seat in one of the two comfortable-looking armchairs sitting across from his desk, as he himself settled into the grand armchair behind the desk. He rested his chin on steepled fingers and stared across at Naruto, making the blonde shift uncomfortably. I'm sure you're wondering why I called you in to meet with me, Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto nodded in agreement. I would not normally do this for a new student, but I believe you to be a special case. The blonde's mouth went dry as the headmaster gave him a significant look. Does he know? He thought in panic. Jiraiya has told me that you excel in music, and I hope to see you in one of our upcoming concerts. But on to other matters. Mr. Uzumaki, I am aware of some of the incidents that you have been involved in previous to coming to our school. Naruto stiffened and Sarutobi tried to soften his voice so the boy didn't run away in panic. I know nothing of specific details, only the most general things that Jiraiya has told me to keep you safe. Now, as your previous guardian, Sarutobi couldn't stop his voice from filling with disdain, is no longer suitable. You are living with Jiraiya, correct? Naruto nodded. Jiraiya took me in after he trailed off, looking uncomfortable. Sarutobi gave him a reassuring smile and Naruto continued. He took me in and I've been living with him ever since. He's the one who insisted I come here. Well, that's wonderful, Mr. Uzumaki. I've known Jiraiya for years, and I'm pleased that he's taken you in. Now, I'm guessing you don't know much about schooling in America, correct? Jiraiya told me you were homeschooled while you were here, and only attended school in Japan before that. I can have someone show you around if you'd like. Naruto nodded gratefully. Even with the use of the map, he doubted he'd be able to get anywhere on time, and having a guide would help a lot. Sandame smiled and pressed a button on the phone on his desk. Mrs. McGovern, call for Sasuke Uchiha please. Tell him he's to escort the new student around campus. He turned to Naruto and, seeing the puzzled look on the blonde's face, said, Sasuke is one of our top students at Konoha. He's in the running for student body president, and he's one of the best violin players in our orchestra. Naruto said while inwardly scrunching his nose in distaste. Hopefully this guy wasn't some stuck-up snob. Sasuke Uchiha is here to see you, sir, the secretary's voice filtered in and Sandaime smiled. Send him in please, Mrs. McGovern. Naruto turned as the door opened and blinked at the student standing in the doorway. Sasuke Uchiha was good-looking, with dark, spiky hair and black eyes. His uniform was immaculate, and he had a blank look on his pale, sharp face. He gave a short bow to the headmaster, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. That's a Japanese custom, he thought curiously. Headmaster Sarutobi, he said stoically, and Naruto sighed. Yay. A snob, he thought in despair. Sasuke, Sarutobi answered back warmly. This is Naruto Uzumaki, our new student. Do you think you can show him around for the day? Sasuke hardly spared Naruto a glance, making the blonde bristle. I'll show that little frickin' arrogant ass, he thought angrily. Of course, Headmaster, Sasuke answered, giving his own inward sigh. Why do they always ask me? He thought, glancing at the new blonde boy. The blonde was short and, well, petite. He had golden blonde hair that brushed his shoulders, making Sasuke wince. That and his large, cerulean blue eyes was really the only thing that set him apart, in the Uchiha's opinion. I don't want to deal with him, he thought. Especially since everyone's going to stare because he's not in uniform. The new student was dressed in a long-sleeved dark shirt and jeans instead of the school's uniform of a button-down white shirt and black pants with a tie. Come with me, Uzumaki, Sasuke said briskly, and Naruto bristled again. Bastard. Have a good first day, Naruto, Sarutobi said with a smile. Naruto smiled back and nodded before following Sasuke out of the office. What's your first class? Sasuke asked, not looking back at Naruto as he left the office and started to make his way down the hallways that were now busy with people. Naruto was struggling to keep up with him. The Uchiha was going so fast. AP Music Theory, he said once he caught up. Sasuke snorted, making Naruto's eyes narrow. Bastard, he mumbled, and Sasuke shot him a glare. Idiot. What was that? Naruto screeched, making all the students walking nearby stop and stare at him. Naruto blushed. Sasuke was smirking. Idiot, he repeated more loudly. Naruto's blush turned darker, more out of anger than embarrassment. At least I'm not an ice prince with a 10-foot pole stuck up his ass, he snapped angrily, making the nearby students murmur among themselves. Who was the kid that dared go up against the Sasuke Uchiha? Sasuke's smirk had dropped off his face and now he was glaring. Maybe you should go get a brain before you try to insult me, Uzumaki, he said acidly. It might make them wittier. Now follow me and stop being so loud and annoying. Naruto froze at those words, memories rushing past him. You're just a burden. Stay quiet, brat, you're too annoying. I'll show you what to do with that loud mouth of yours. He shuddered and said, Don't call me that. Sasuke frowned and turned to see the blonde staring at him with serious blue eyes. Please. Sasuke's frown deepened, but he didn't comment on the new kid's uncharacteristic new seriousness. Whatever, moron. He started to move forward again. Bastard. Sasuke smirked. AP Music Theory was already crowded with people once Sasuke and Naruto managed to make it inside. There was no sign of a teacher, since second bell hadn't rung yet, which meant all the girls were free to crowd around Sasuke as much as they wanted. The Uchiha glared over his shoulder at his snickering shadow and tried to push his fangirls away. Who's the new kid, Sasuke? A tall teenager with a ponytail of spiked dark hair approached the duo, carelessly shoving away random kids as he did so. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto answered himself, giving the stranger a grin. He pretended not to notice how the stranger straightened at his name. What about you? Shikamaru Nara, he answered back lazily. That troublesome guy's only friend, whether he'll admit it or not, he added in, pointing at Sasuke. The Uchiha just glared at him. Wow, Naruto said, widening his eyes. You must be pretty awesome if you can put up with the Ice Prince. Shikamaru stifled a snort of laughter, and Sasuke's glare refocused onto Naruto. Better leave while you can, Shikamaru, he snapped. Otherwise you might catch stupid. This time it was Naruto glaring, while Shikamaru just gave a weary chuckle. Hate at first sight, he quipped. You got that right. Naruto chirped, though how he could do so with such an angry glare on his face was anybody's guess. The bell rang loudly and instantly the room was full of noise as the students hurried to their desks. Naruto, not knowing where he was supposed to sit, was left standing awkwardly to the side, trying to ignore all the curious eyes on him. Finally the teacher came in, papers under his arm and a coffee cup in his hand. Naruto stared. The teacher looked like an older, less annoying Sasuke. He glanced down at the open schedule in his hand. Uchiha? You're Uzumaki, correct? He asked Naruto, and the blonde nodded. Uchiha sighed. You sit there, next to the scruffy kid with the ridiculous tattoos. There was a noise of protest somewhere in the back of the room. Try not to annoy me, and we'll get along great. Stop by after school and I can give you notes on what you've missed so far. With that, he continued on his way to the front. Naruto rolled his eyes. Looks like bastardness runs in the family. He quickly made his way to the back of the room, brightening when he saw a scruffy-looking boy with upside red triangles on each cheek. You're who he was talking about, right? He asked, sliding into the seat next to the boy. He gave Naruto a disgruntled look. Yeah. Kiba Inuzuka, and my tattoos are not ridiculous, he said gruffly. Putting words in my mouth, man, Naruto said, with a smile. My personal opinion? Not as cool as some, but pretty original, as tattoos go. I've never met anyone with the guts to put them on their face either, so that makes them pretty cool in my book. Kiba scratched his cheek sheepishly. Sorry. Mr. Uchiha has had it in for me since day one. And his student worker isn't any better, he muttered. Naruto tilted his head. Student worker? His nephew, Itachi Uchiha. Sasuke's older brother, Kiba said with a sneer. Naruto made a face. Is this place overrun with Uchihas or something? Kiba gave a bark of laughter. Not really. There's only the two older Uchihas and Sasuke left over. What happened to the rest of the family? Naruto asked curiously. Kiba gave him a look. Didn't you hear about the Uchiha fires of 1998? I wasn't in the country at the time, Naruto said dryly. Really? Where are you from? Japan. Now, what happened? Geez, you're a persistent little bastard, aren't you? Kiba rubbed the back of his neck hesitantly. Well, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but it's not like you're not gonna hear about it sooner or later anyways. The Uchihas died in a huge-ass fire in 1998. Sasuke and the older Uchihas were the only survivors because they were out that day. Inuzuka, Uzumaki, quiet back there. Madara had finally decided it was time to start class. Kiba hunkered down in his seat, while Naruto rolled his eyes and bent to grab his supplies from his backpack. So Sasuke's family is all gone then, right? He thought to himself, his eyes drawn to the youngest Uchiha despite himself. Maybe I can excuse his bastard-wide behavior. But just this once. By the time it was the final period of the day, Naruto was tired and irritable. He hated school. Never again would he roll his eyes when he overheard a high school student complain to his friends about having to go to school. He sympathized. Immensely. The hallways sucked. People kept stopping every 5 seconds and plugged up the hallways until Naruto was squeezing through wherever he could. Lunch sucked as well. The food line was so long that Naruto didn't even bother to go through, instead just grabbing something from the vending machines. Since Naruto was the new kid, he had nowhere to sit, so he just picked a random open place, munched as fast as he could and got out of there as soon as possible. He had a ton of work to catch up on, and his teachers were crazy. Thankfully it was finally the end of the day, but now Naruto was going to be in the class he'd been dreading all day. All of the practice rooms in Konoha were on the first floor, and Naruto's was in the A wing. He'd found it easily enough, despite Sasuke ditching him after 4th period, saying that he knew enough about the school to get by on his own. Naruto snorted as he pushed open the door. Sasuke was just a lazy bastard, that was all. The practice room was small and compact, and it was filled by the large piano standing in the middle of it. On the walls there were posters of famous composers, Chopin, Mozart, and Beethoven, probably meant to inspire the students that entered. A large file cabinet was tucked into the corner, and had a laptop computer on top of it, but other than that the room was empty and bare. Naruto frowned and quietly set his backpack by the door before going to the piano. Cautiously he pulled out the bench and sat down, placing his hands on the cover of the keys, and memories overwhelmed. Naruto, that was wonderful. My little Mozart, he's a demon, how can he play so well? Play me some more, boy, and I might make your punishment easier. No, stop, no. Naruto sharply pulled away from the piano, breathing hard. He stood and turned away from the instrument, starting to pace. How did I think I could do this? He thought in panic. I haven't touched a piano since him, and now I can't even open the cover without memories overwhelming me. And soon a teacher's gonna come in and expect me to play for him, and oh my god, I can't do that. Naruto forced himself to stop pacing and take a deep breath. Remember what Jiraiya said. It wasn't natural, what he did, and other people won't do that. Trembling slightly, Naruto turned and slowly sat back down at the piano. Before he could think, he flung the cover up, revealing 88 white and black keys. Play something, Uzumaki. Anything to stop the memories. Hesitantly, Naruto reached out a finger and plunked a note, middle C. The note filled the air, and suddenly all he wanted to do was play. He hit another note, and another, until a tune filled the air, the notes familiar and comforting. This was something his mother had taught him to play, all those years ago, when she'd been alive and they were happy. He opened his mouth and the words to the music spilled out. Oh Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen, and down the mountainside the summer's gone, and all the flowers are dying, 'tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow, 'tis I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh Danny boy, I love you so. The song was an old Irish folk tune that his mother had loved despite the sad story behind it. It was one of the first songs she'd taught him when he started to play piano. And if you come, when all the flowers are dying and I am dead, as dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying and kneel and say an Ave there for me. And I shall hear, though soft, you tread above me, and all my dreams will warm and sweeter be if you'll not fail to tell me that you love me. I'll simply sleep in peace until you come to me. I'll simply sleep in peace until you come to me. Naruto smiled as the last note hung in the air. This was easier than he thought it would be. He started to play another song, another one of his mother's favorites, and smiled. He could do this. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Will it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. Eric Clapton had been one of his mother's favorite singers, mainly because of his accomplishments on the guitar. She'd been the one to teach him the simpler, piano version of her favorite song, Tears in Heaven. It had been the last song she taught him before she died. Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven? Would you help me stand if I saw you in heaven? I'll find my way through night and day, 'cause I know I just can't stay here in heaven. Time can bring you down, time can bend your knee, time can break your heart, have you begging please, begging please. The instrumental on the piano sounded eerily similar to Clapton's guitar break, and Naruto attributed it to his mother's musical talent. She'd taught him all she knew, and in his eyes she was the goddess of music. Whatever she'd said about it was law. Naruto smiled as his fingers danced over the keys. He knew better now, but he missed the simpler times when you could listen to someone without questioning them. Beyond the door there's peace, I'm sure, and I know there'll be no more tears in heaven. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Will it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. 'Cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. Well, a voice said from the door. Jiraiya didn't exaggerate for once. You're not half bad, kid. Naruto whirled around on the piano bench so fast that he fell off of it and onto the floor, banging his leg and elbows in the process. Memories flashed past his eyes and instinctively raised his arms to shield his head. Ah, such lovely music. But now it's time for some other entertainment, wouldn't you say, Naruto? You have such talent, boy, it's despicable. You've grown up nicely, haven't you? Maybe these meetings should be used for something more enjoyable? Your music will always belong to me. Whenever you play, all you'll think of is me, Naruto. Me. Naruto whimpered when he felt hands wrap around his biceps, forcing his arms away from his head. He curled into himself but didn't move. He always hated it when Naruto moved. Kid? A voice said, and Naruto looked up warily to see two dark eyes looking down at him. Naruto blinked. Those eyes weren't amber. He wasn't there. And suddenly his relapse left him, and he remembered where he was and that he wouldn't get punished here. Jiraiya had promised him, and if there was one person he trusted in the world, it was that old pervert. Sorry, Naruto said shakily, getting to his feet. He looked up at the man and blinked when he caught sight of the full mask covering the bottom part of his face, and the eye patch covering his right eye. To add to the oddness, the man also had silver hair that spiked in every way, defying gravity in a way that reminded Naruto of his own hair when it was short and more defiant. I'm Kakashi Hatake, the man told him, eyeing him curiously. Or at least, I think he is, Naruto thought. He still looks indifferent. How can he be apathetic to everything? I'm your new piano teacher. Oh, Naruto said. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Obviously. I'm really sorry about this. Don't worry about it, Kakashi said with an eye smile. Naruto wondered if he was really smiling underneath his mask or if it was all fake to convince Naruto everything was fine. Kakashi gestured to the piano. Sit down, play something else. Do you know anything classical? Naruto hesitantly sat down at the bench. Yes, he told Kakashi quietly. I know a lot of classical music. He did his best not to think about how he'd acquired that knowledge. It would only bring more flashbacks and embarrassment. Play me a piece. You can play modern songs quite easily, but you may need to work on your classical. Naruto wanted to laugh at the man. Jiraiya didn't tell him anything, he reminded himself. He knows nothing about you. It was an oddly liberating thought. Naruto sighed and turned back to the piano, placing his hands on the keys. The flashbacks were faster this time and easier to deal with. He managed to shake them off without raising Kakashi's suspicions, or at least he thought so. His new teacher was a hard person to read. He carefully thought on what he wanted to play and placed his hands on the keys, taking a deep breath. Kakashi watched in interest as his newest student played Chopin's Ninth Nocturne flawlessly, slim fingers dancing over the keys. He was very good. He even had his eyes closed as he played, leaning forward and back as the music crescendoed and decrescendoed. It reminded Kakashi very much of when he saw one of the Uchihas play, only with quite a bit more passion than either of them were capable of drawing up for music. When the last notes filled the air, Kakashi gave a low whistle. Naruto looked up, startled. Good, Kakashi told him. Very good. Where did you learn classical music? Naruto stiffened. My previous guardian had a fascination with classical music, he said quietly. He taught me many pieces. Kakashi said, eyeing Naruto's tense posture. There's a story there, he thought. Well, you should think of joining the orchestra. They're looking for a good piano player. Naruto tensed even further. No. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Oh? Why not? You could get some attention that way, maybe get yourself booked somewhere. I can't, Mr. Hatake, Naruto said stiffly. Call me Kakashi, kid, the older man told him. He eyed Naruto for a minute before shrugging. All right. You don't want to do it, I can't force you. But you should still consider it. Now, let's work on another piece. Naruto didn't leave school immediately after the bell rang. Instead, he headed out of the music division and into the literature division. He wanted to speak to Jiraiya for a bit before heading home, and then he had to meet with some of his teachers to discuss the work he'd missed because of his late start. Naruto really had no idea where Jiraiya's office was and was cursing the old pervert under his breath when he came upon a tall student that looked like he was a year or so older than Naruto. The blonde raised an eyebrow when the student turned and he could make out pale, aristocratic features framed by long black hair and jet black eyes. Another Uchiha, he thought. Didn't Kiba say his name was Itachi? Excuse me, he said. Itachi turned and Naruto was slightly disturbed by the blank expression on the Uchiha's face. Do you know where Jiraiya-san's office is? Itachi considered him for a moment. Down the hall, first door on the right. Room C201, he said calmly. Naruto grinned at him. Thanks, he said and headed in that direction. Since his back was turned, he didn't notice the speculative glance Itachi gave him as he walked away. Naruto found Jiraiya's office easily enough and stifled a laugh when he saw that his guardian was reading a porn magazine and ignoring the stacks of papers that needed to be graded on his desk. Ero Sennin! Naruto cried, the Japanese nickname rolling easily off his tongue. It had been amusing when he told Jiraiya exactly what it meant. Jiraiya jumped and turned to Naruto with a murderous expression. Brat! Jesus Christ, can't you knock or something? He asked irritably, closing the porn magazine and bookmarking it with his finger. Nope, Naruto said with a teasing smile. I'm hoping that one of these days you'll get a heart attack and drop dead so you'll leave me with all your money. Jiraiya snorted. So that's why. Too bad for you that I'm hardier than that, kid, he said. He leaned back in his chair and eyed Naruto curiously. So what are you doing here? School's out for the day. Naruto leaned on the wall and grinned at Jiraiya. Don't you want to know how my day went, Ero Sennin? Don't call me that, you brat, Jiraiya said with a glare. Then he sighed. Fine, give me all the details, he said in resignation. The Uchihas are all bastards. Naruto started out, waving his hands in the air. Sasuke has a pole stuck so far up his ass it's a wonder he can walk, and Mr. Uchiha is slave driver. And I just met Itachi, is he always so emotionless? Jiraiya laughed. Figures you'd hate the Uchihas, he said. They're the complete opposite of you, Itachi and Sasuke especially. And yes, Itachi is pretty apathetic. But he's not that bad, he added, a thoughtful look on his face. Emotionless, yes, but he's not as much of a brat as his brother is. Naruto sighed. Well, Sasuke team abandoned me after 4th period. He was supposed to show me around, and so I made it on my own from there. Is every teacher in this school crazy? Jiraiya laughed again. Yeah, pretty much. Who do you have? Uchiha, Ibiki, Namikaze. He was out though, so we had a sub, Mitarashi, Kurenai, Guy, and Kakashi, Naruto listed off. Jiraiya cracked up again and Naruto glared at him. It's not funny! He cried. Ibiki has to be the scariest teacher I've ever seen, and even worse, he teaches calculus. Mitarashi is creepy and has a snake fetish, and Guy-sensei tried to smother me with the power of youth. Naruto sounded creeped out. Only Kurenai, Kakashi, and Namikaze's sub were remotely sane. And Namikaze may be just as crazy as the others, and then I'll only have 2 sane teachers. Nah, Minato's okay compared to who you have, Jiraiya said, chuckling, and Kurenai's one of my best teachers. Kakashi, though I never thought he'd be considered sane. Compared to everyone else he's pretty damned sane, Naruto grumbled. He hesitated and then said, he saw one of my relapses. Jiraiya stiffened. Did he say anything? He asked worriedly. Are you okay? Do I need to cancel the class? No, Naruto said, smiling at the older man's worry. I think I'm going to be fine with it. I actually played in front of him, he sounded amazed. I never thought I'd be able to do that. Jiraiya smiled. He'd grown very fond of Naruto, and he was happy that the blonde was doing well at Konoha. Kakashi was the best choice, he thought, watching Naruto's amazed expression. He'll be able to help Naruto move past this. And if there was anything in the world he wanted most, it was for Naruto to be able to heal. Minneapolis, Minnesota, September 29, 2007. Oh, where have you been, my blue-eyed son? Oh, where have you been, my darling young one? I've stumbled on the side of 12 misty mountains, I've walked and I've crawled on 6 crooked highways, I've stepped in the middle of 7 sad forests, I've been out in front of a dozen dead oceans, I've been 10,000 miles in the mouth of a graveyard, and it's a hard, and it's a hard, it's a hard, and it's a hard, and it's a hard rain's gonna fall. Slim fingers paused over the guitar strings as the front door slammed closed. Naruto gracefully slid to his feet, setting the guitar on the floor as he strode to his guardian's side. Jiraiya was furious. His lips were pressed so tightly together they practically disappeared into his face, and 2 spots of color sat high on his cheekbones. Erosenin? He asked worriedly. The older man didn't look at him. Jiraiya? What, brat? Jiraiya barked and Naruto flinched back. Jiraiya caught the action out of the corner of his eye and turned suddenly, concern replacing his anger. Shit, I'm sorry. He ran a hand through his hair. I'm just riled up about. About? Naruto encouraged, gaining his confidence back in light of Jiraiya's apology. Sarutobi sent a letter to the department heads. It says that we need to cut back some things to save money. A lot of the lit things are going, since there's so little people in that division. Jiraiya's voice was bitter. Naruto winced and hesitantly placed a hand on Jiraiya's shoulder. Can't we raise money? He asked. Jiraiya shrugged, still angry and depressed. I don't know, kid. Maybe I can talk Sarutobi into a fundraiser or an event. He trailed off, looking thoughtful. Then he turned to Naruto, a grin brightening his face. You were playing something when I walked in, weren't you? Come on, let's hear it. Naruto blushed and shook his head. Ah, Naru's shy. Isn't that just adorable? Jiraiya cooed, getting his usual good mood back thanks to how much fun it was to tease Naruto. The blonde glared at him and then spun on his heel, waving for Jiraiya to follow him. The older man did so with a grin. Naruto rarely performed, even in front of Jiraiya, whom he trusted, so to have the blonde play for him was a treat. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow when he saw Naruto sitting in the middle of the living room floor, the guitar that he'd found soon after moving in perched on his knees. Jiraiya sat opposite his charge, groaning when his knees popped as he crouched down, and glaring at Naruto when the blonde grinned at the sound. It wasn't his fault he was getting old. All right, play, Jiraiya commanded. He watched with avid interest as Naruto's fingers started to strum the guitar strings while his free hand moved up and down the neck of the guitar. Oh, what did you see, my blue-eyed son? Oh, what did you see, my darling young one? I saw a newborn baby with wild wolves all around it. I saw a highway of diamonds with nobody on it. I saw a black branch with blood that kept dripping. I saw a room full of men with their hammers bleeding. I saw a white ladder all covered with water. I saw 10,000 talkers whose tongues were all broken. I saw guns and sharp swords in the hands of young children, and it's a hard, and it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, and it's a hard rain's gonna fall. And what did you hear, my blue-eyed son? And what did you hear, my darling young one? I heard the sound of a thunder, it roared out a warning, heard the roar of a wave that could drown the whole world, heard 100 drummers whose hands were ablazing, heard 10,000 whisperin' and nobody listening, heard one person starve, I heard many people logan, heard the song of a poet who died in the gutter, heard the sound of a clown who cried in the alley, and it's a hard, and it's a hard, it's a hard, it's a hard, and it's a hard rain's gonna fall. Naruto's voice, Jiraiya mused, was as good as his guitar playing. He shook his head in awe as he watched Naruto close his eyes and continue to play. He'd never seen anything like the kid. He could do it all. Piano, voice, guitar. Jiraiya even thought he'd heard Naruto mention playing violin and cello once or twice. And whatever he played well. Incredibly well. Oh, who did you meet, my blue-eyed son? Who did you meet, my darling young one? I met a young child beside a dead pony. I met a white man who walked a black dog. I met a young woman whose body was burning. I met a young girl, she gave me a rainbow. I met one man who was wounded in love. I met another man who was wounded with hatred. And it's a hard rain's gonna fall. Oh, what'll you do now, my blue-eyed son? Oh, what'll you do now, my darling young one? I'm a-goin' back out for the rain starts a-fallin'. I'll walk to the depths of the deepest black forest, where the people are many and their hands are all empty, where the pellets of poison are flooding their waters, where the home in the valley meets the damp dirty prison, where the executioner's face is always well hidden, where hunger is ugly, where souls are forgotten, where black is the color, where none is the number, and I'll tell it and think it and speak it and breathe it, and reflect it from the mountain so all souls can see it. Then I'll stand on the ocean until I start sinking, but I'll know my song well before I start singing, and it's a hard rain's gonna fall. Naruto opened his eyes as the last chord finished and looked at Jiraiya anxiously. How was it? He asked, wetting his lips nervously. Jiraiya smiled at him. Wonderful, as always, Naruto. Shit, I can't believe how well you play. He trailed off when he saw Naruto tense and another, sadder smile took over his face. That's a good thing, Naruto. You have a wonderful talent. Naruto nodded too, but there was uncertainty in his eyes and Jiraiya could see it. He sighed. Naruto was a complicated person. His history made him very vulnerable, and yet he was tougher than some grown men Jiraiya knew. More mature sometimes too, he thought with an inward snort. He seemed so open, but he hid himself in his open nature. He acted cheerful and content on the outside, while on the inside, well, who knew what went on? Even Jiraiya didn't know all of the blonde's secrets, and he was the one Naruto trusted the most. Well, I'd better go talk to Sarutobi, he said, standing up with a wince. Naruto smiled at him and set the guitar aside. I have homework to finish, he said quietly. He walked to the door and then turned back. Thanks, Jiraiya, he said lowly and then turned to leave. Jiraiya watched him go with a slight smile. No problem, kiddo, he said to the empty room. No problem. Naruto Uzumaki entered Konoha's library cautiously. His eyes widened as he took in the shelves stacked high with books. He'd rarely been in places with so many of them. Naruto gulped, and then straightened his shoulders. No library is getting the best of me, he thought bravely, striding into the room as if he owned the place. Naruto wandered the aisles, wishing that he could find the librarian's desk to ask about books for composition and literature. He needed some references for history too. He didn't want to get on Namake's bad side when the man finally showed up, and they had a paper due next week about Chopin. Naruto raised an eyebrow when he came upon a clearing of bookshelves that had a long row of computers in it. There were some students there, but mostly the place was empty. Naruto brightened when he saw Shikamaru slouched in one of the chairs and hurried over. Shikamaru! He whispered loudly, earning some reproachful looks from the few students in the library. The lazy boy looked up and flicked his hand. Naruto, he murmured, eyes moving back to the screen. Troublesome. Naruto slid into the seat next to Shikamaru and flicked the computer on. What are you doing? He asked slowly, hoping the other students wouldn't give him more dirty looks. Shikamaru didn't look at Naruto. Music, he said simply. Naruto frowned. Music? He asked curiously. What do you mean? Shikamaru sighed. There's software to find sheet music on the school computers, he explained tiredly. I lost mine for orchestra, I need to print off new copies. Troublesome. Naruto raised an eyebrow and turned to his own computer screen. What's the name of the program? Music Finder, Shikamaru muttered, clicking rapidly on his mouse. Naruto found the button on his desktop and clicked it, curious about the program. It'd be useful to get some sheet music to try out. The program was plain and efficient, a simple search for the people who knew what they were looking for and a link to a more advanced search for the people who didn't. Naruto, who fell in the later category, instantly clicked on Advanced Search. His eyes widened as he took in the numerous options: genre, artist, album, song title, keyword, and year. Hesitantly he typed out Bob Dylan, another one of his mother's favorite artists, in the artist category and hit search. He took in the numerous albums and songs that followed with wide eyes. Naruto continued to search, going first for the things he knew and then going into broader things such as genre and picking what looked good and what didn't. He found a lot of sheet music that he liked through this method, most of which he opened up in a new window to save it so he could print it out later. It was when he was in the middle of searching for new music that he felt a hand on his shoulder. He flinched away, and the hand fell loose. "Uzumaki," Shikamaru said in a tired voice, "are you planning on being here all night?" Naruto smiled sheepishly up at the other teen. "Just a little bit longer," he said. "I want to print these out and find a couple more." He gestured with a free hand at the computer screen. Shikamaru sighed. "Printing is free for students," he informed Naruto. "Library closes at 9 o'clock, 8:30 on weekdays. The printer is over there." He pointed to a corner of the little clearing of computers and then yawned. "My good deed is done for the day," he muttered. "Troublesome. See you, Uzumaki." He left with an exhausted wave over one shoulder. Naruto smiled at his back before returning to his computer screen. If the library closed at 8:30 on weekdays, he only had a couple more hours to spare before he had to leave, and he still had to find his books for history and literature. "Come on, Iruka, just come hear this kid," Kakashi pleaded, dragging the resisting teacher behind him. For such a short guy, Iruka Umino was not easily pulled. He stood his ground, glaring up at Kakashi with flashing brown eyes. "Kakashi, some of us have work to do," he said angrily. Kakashi wanted to coo at the other man. Iruka was just so adorable when he was angry. "I'm glad you like your new student so much, but I can't ditch work to come listen to him. I have to get the music for concert choir picked up, and..." "Just listen to him for a little while," Kakashi pleaded. That stopped Iruka's protesting. Kakashi never pleaded for anything. "He's good, Iruka." Iruka sighed. "Fine. But you get all the complaints from my student teacher for being behind schedule." Kakashi grinned at him. "Deal," he chirped happily. Iruka sighed again. He liked Kakashi, sometimes a great deal more than he should, but he rarely, if ever, understood the man. He frowned when he noticed that his hand was still in Kakashi's and was just about to comment on it when he heard music drifting along the corridor they were walking up, accompanied by a haunting male voice. "The wind is moving but I am standing still, a life of pages waiting to be filled. A heart that's hopeful, a head that's full of dreams, but this becoming is harder than it seems." He didn't register the smug quality to Kakashi's eye smile, only concentrating on the music. Whoever was playing was good, extremely good. Their hands never missed a note, and their voice was well-tuned and had perfect pitch. Their voice was low and melodic, a second tenor's voice, to Iruka's well-trained ears. "Feels like I'm looking for a reason, woman, for the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world, not a lot to lean, only need your light to help me find my place in this world, my place in this world. If there are millions down on their knees among the many, can you still hear me? Hear me asking, where do I belong? Is there a vision that I can call my own?" They had come to the classroom, whose open door explained the drifting music, and Iruka wasn't surprised to find that the mysterious singer was none other than Kakashi's talented student. What he was surprised to find, however, were the students gathered around the door, gawking. The blonde seated at the piano, however, never noticed them. His eyes were closed as he sang and moved. Iruka watched with approval. The blonde moved, but not enough to affect his singing posture. That was what he wanted his students to do when he told them to move with the music. "Show me. I'm looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world, not a lot to lean, only need your light to help me find my place in this world, my place in this world. Looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world, not a lot to lean, only need your light to help me find my place in this world, my place in this world. Looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world." "What are you all doing here?" Iruka asked lowly. Kakashi had told him of his first encounter with the blonde, Naruto, and he didn't want to startle him and make him panic again. When the students turned, Iruka was instantly able to place them, and he nearly groaned. Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Shikamaru Nara, and Hinata Hyuga, he thought. Shikamaru and Hinata on their own weren't that bad, but Sasuke had a chip the size of Alaska in his shoulder, and Sakura was the nosiest person in the school. Even the teachers were aware of their personalities. "Who is that?" Sakura demanded to know, arms crossed over her chest. Iruka was annoyed at her bossiness but hid it behind a pleasant smile. It wouldn't be proper to yell at his students, after all. "Naruto Uzumaki," he said. "The new student." Sasuke, he noticed, was still staring at the blonde, who hadn't lifted his hand from the piano keys or opened his eyes, though he must have noticed the group by the door by now. Iruka frowned with concern when he saw that Naruto was shaking lightly. What on earth happened to that boy? He thought worriedly, but returned his focus to Sasuke. The Uchiha's thoughts were masked, and Iruka couldn't help but wonder what he thought of Naruto. Sasuke, after all, was lauded as a prodigy. Naruto was obviously good at singing and playing piano, and with Sasuke's arrogant attitude he wasn't likely to take it well, even if his talents laid in strings instead of percussions. Play something else, the Uchiha demanded of Naruto. Iruka's eyes narrowed when Naruto flinched slightly. Sasuke, he chided gently. The Uchiha didn't look away from Naruto. The shaking grew more pronounced, and Iruka was just about to step in, when the beginning notes of a song filled the air. Naruto never opened his eyes during the exchange as his fingers drifted into another melody. Iruka recognized the song, but he couldn't name it. It was very beautiful, languid and legato, bringing dreams and peace to mind. He knew that he would have never been able to play it, even after years of playing piano. Kakashi was right about this boy, he thought, watching the drifting fingers with awe. When Naruto finished, the group outside the door was quiet again. Unsasuspiro, Shikamaru said in a flat voice. Franz Liszt. Iruka's eyes widened. He remembered his old piano teacher telling him that the song was intensely difficult to play, let alone master to the degree that Naruto obviously had. Good, Naruto, Kakashi praised, and Iruka smiled slightly. Sasuke, however, looked like he'd just bitten into a lemon. Naruto opened his eyes and turned to look over his shoulder at the boy. The look in his blue eyes was half challenging, half pleading. Sasuke just glared back at him. Looks like you can play after all, moron, he muttered, stalking away with Sakura at his heels. Iruka watched them go, all the while wondering if Sasuke would ever realize that there were meant to be people that were better at him at some things. I am sorry for intruding, and Naruto, Hinata said shyly. I was just passing by and the music sounded so beautiful. Naruto opened his eyes and smiled at her. It's alright, Hinata-san, he said, and Kakashi raised an eyebrow at the Japanese honorific. I didn't know he was Japanese, he thought with surprise. He doesn't look it. Maybe he's half and half? I'm just uncomfortable with people listening to me play, is all, he explained. Because of your previous guardian, correct? Shikamaru asked in a bored tone. Naruto stiffened immediately. How do you know about him? He barked out, eyes narrowing at the ponytailed teenager. Shikamaru shrugged nonchalantly. My father was one of the policemen who went to the house, he said bluntly. Naruto paled. He showed me the report when Jiraiya told him you were coming here. Iruka started to move forward as Naruto began to shake again. Shikamaru watched the effect his words had with calculating eyes. You still haven't gotten over it, have you? He asked quietly. It's been a year, and you're still as traumatized as you were when you were living with him. Naruto said shakily, when you come out of hell, you don't recover quickly, Shikamaru. Please don't tell anyone of this. Please just let it alone. Leave me alone. Shikamaru eyed him for another moment before sighing. All right. It's too troublesome anyways. He turned and walked away. Hinata, stuttering a goodbye, rushed after him. Naruto was staring down at the piano keys, a distant look on his face. Iruka cautiously made his way to the blonde's side and cleared his throat. Naruto jumped and whirled around. Nice to meet you, Mr. Uzumaki, Iruka said with a kind smile. Naruto smiled back uncertainly, relaxing slightly. Kakashi, who still stood by the door, smiled at the sight. Iruka had no idea how good he was with kids. I'm Iruka Umino, the choir director. Nice to meet you, Mr. Umino, Naruto said, the smile on his face becoming more genuine. It was a pleasure to listen to you, Iruka said. Where did you learn to sing like that? Naruto's face closed off slightly, and Iruka was about to apologize when the blonde said, My mother was a professional singer. She taught me everything I know about music. She taught you very well, Iruka said, with another kind smile. Will you play something else for me? Naruto eyed the man warily. Kakashi, he trusted to a certain extent. He could play in front of Kakashi when the man prompted him. But Iruka? He didn't know the man at all. He took in Iruka's dark skin, chocolate hair and eyes, and the thin scar across the bridge of his nose. He looked kind, but hadn't Naruto found that looks were deceiving? He trailed off, uncertain. Play something, Naruto, Kakashi interrupted, and Naruto understood what he was saying. I won't let anything happen. He relaxed. He trusted Kakashi to not hurt him, so he'd have to trust him to keep this Iruka guy away if he decided Naruto needed punishment. He looked down at the keys and started to play one of the songs he'd gotten online a couple of days ago. There's another world inside of me that you may never see. There are secrets in this light that I can't hide. Somewhere in this darkness there's a light that I can't find. Maybe it's too far away, or maybe I'm just blind. Or maybe I'm just blind. So hold me when I'm here, right me when I'm wrong, hold me when I'm scared, and love me when I'm gone. Everything I am and everything in me wants to be the one you wanted me to be. I'll never let you down, even if I could. I'd give up everything if only for your good. So hold me when I'm here, right me when I'm wrong. You can hold me when I'm scared. You won't always be there. So love me when I'm gone. When your education X-ray cannot see under my skin, I won't tell you a damn thing that I could not tell my friends. Roaming through this darkness, I am alive, but I'm alone. Part of me is fighting this, but part of me is gone. Love me when I'm gone. Naruto's voice was husky and low, and his fingers danced over the keys. Iruka watched intently, eyes on Naruto's face as his expressions changed with the music. Kakashi leaned against the wall and let the music wash over him. So hold me when I'm here, right me when I'm wrong, hold me when I'm scared, and love me when I'm gone. Everything I am and everything in me wants to be the one you wanted me to be. I'll never let you down, even if I could. I'd give up everything if only for your good. So hold me when I'm here, right me when I'm wrong. You can hold me when I'm scared. You won't always be there. So love me when I'm gone. Or maybe I'm just blind. So hold me when I'm here, right me when I'm wrong, hold me when I'm scared, and love me when I'm gone. Everything I am and everything in me wants to be the one you wanted me to be. I'll never let you down, even if I could. I'd give up everything if only for your good. So hold me when I'm here, right me when I'm wrong. You can hold me when I'm scared. You won't always be there. So love me when I'm gone. Love me when I'm gone. Love me when I'm gone, when I'm gone, when I'm gone, when I'm gone. Iruka clapped loudly when he was down, ignoring Naruto's flinch. That was wonderful, Naruto, he said with a beaming smile. Naruto hesitantly smiled back. I'm glad you liked it, Mr. Yumino, he said. You should try out for choir, if you're not going for orchestra, he said enthusiastically. Your technique is really good, and you have an excellent voice. Naruto's smile had dropped from his face, and he was tense again. I'm not going to be performing, Mr. Yumino, he said stiffly. I just like to play for my own pleasure. Not for anyone else. Iruka was taken aback by his vehemence. All right, Naruto. It's your choice, after all. But if you ever wish to join, all you have to do is say so. Naruto smiled at him, relaxed again. I know, Mr. Yumino. I know. Pale fingers moved effortlessly over the strings, while the other hand held the bow, dipping up and down like a boat dipping through ocean waves. No one played violin quite like Itachi Uchiha, who seemed to be poetry in motion. Only the best would notice the eerie blankness in his eyes, the complete lack of passion in his playing. Only they would be unsatisfied with his performance. Playing without passion, after all, is hardly better than playing badly. The notes to Ravel's Tsigan danced through the air, filling the music room. Itachi was nearing the end of the long song, and he could feel his fingers starting to go numb. He'd been playing and practicing for 3 hours straight, and it was starting to reflect in his playing. His notes were the tinsiest bit sloppy, the timing the littlest bit off. It was enough to irk a perfectionist like Itachi. He sighed with relief when the song was over. That had been the last piece he needed to practice, so he could pack up and go home now. He turned and raised an eyebrow when he saw a blonde lounging in the doorway to the classroom. He hadn't even noticed the kid approach. He recognized the blonde as the new student, the one who'd asked him for directions a while back. He didn't know the blonde's name. Itachi never bothered with names unless a person interested him, or unless they were family, like Sasuke and Madara. Everyone else was a seamless blur of untalented, idiotic people that he had no need for. You play well, the blonde remarked, and Itachi frowned. On anyone else this may have seemed to be a compliment, but for some reason the blonde's tone indicated that it wasn't. You play very well, the blonde continued, strolling into the room. He stopped in front of Itachi and looked up at the slightly taller man with intense eyes. But not well enough. He sounded sad about this. Itachi's eyes furrowed. What do you mean? He said, and had he been anyone else there would have been anger coloring his tone. After all, Itachi had spent years playing the violin. He didn't need some little punk telling him he didn't play well enough. The blonde looked up at him with strangely earnest eyes. There's about as much emotion in your playing as there is in your face, Uchiha, he said bluntly. Itachi raised an eyebrow, impressed despite himself. There weren't many who'd speak to him like that. And without passion, music is just notes on paper. You play the music, but you don't play the instrument. He smiled slightly. That's why your playing isn't good enough. Itachi considered this. He supposed that it could be true. For him, music was just another thing he was good at. He hadn't had to spend that much time learning it before he'd mastered it. It wasn't something he was particularly passionate about, though Itachi wasn't exactly emotional about anything. Perhaps the blonde was speaking the truth. His playing could be lacking something. You may be right, he said, not one to lie to himself or to others. The blonde smiled again. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, he said. And if you were to play with passion, I have no doubt you'd be the best, Itachi Uchiha. Itachi wondered if it was wise to feel uplifted by those words. This was, after all, a person he just met. He nodded to the blonde and turned away to start to pack away his violin. The blonde, Itachi mused, was interesting. And Itachi liked interesting people. He wondered if he should try to get to know this Naruto Uzumaki better. Maybe if he did, the blonde's attitude would grow tiring, and Itachi would lose his interest. Itachi turned and realized that he didn't have a choice in the matter. Naruto had disappeared as silently as he'd come. The people at Jerry's computer cafe were normally warm and welcoming to strangers. But this one had even the kindliest old lady eyeing him with suspicion. After all, a man with greasy, long hair, an obviously unwashed body, and grimy rags hanging off of him was suspicious to even the most naive. But the man didn't try anything. He just went to a computer and started to search the internet. Eventually, the other customers at Jerry's lost interest in him. Except for the unwashed smell, they hardly even noticed he was there. The man smirked to himself. Their mistake. He concentrated on the computer screen in front of him. He knew that old idiot Jiraiya worked at Konoha. He knew that he would have taken his charge with him there, especially with the boy's musical talents. So what he needed was access to the school's files, to get the brat's address. His smirk widened as the school's protections fell easily. Konoha obviously wasn't as good at technology as they were at the arts. You, here it is, he thought in triumph. Naruto Uzumaki. Just transferred in, placed in the music division, with a specialization in piano. Aha! Here's the address. The man quickly scribbled down the address and got up to pay, ignoring the suspicious look he got from the employee behind the desk. His focus was on the brat he was pursuing. Now that he knew the brat's address, it was only a matter of time until Naruto was his again. He just needed to play things right and everything would fall into place again. Kyubi Kitsune cackled inwardly as he left Jerry's computer cafe. It was only a matter of time. Mendota, Minnesota, October 5, 2007. Minato Namikaze sighed as he entered his house, tossing his keys onto a small table near the door. He'd been sick with the flu for the last week, and today had been his checkup. The doctor he'd seen had told him that the flu had reached its climax a couple of days back and that it should start getting steadily better as the days went by. Minato hoped so. He didn't want to have to take more sick days than he needed to. Hopefully by Monday he'd be feeling well enough to go back to teaching. Minato climbed the stairs tiredly, mostly wanting to take an afternoon nap and sleep off the stuffy feeling in his nose and the lightheadedness. But he paused before going all the way down the hall to his bedroom. The door to his music room was open. Minato frowned tiredly. He wasn't sure if it had been opened before he'd left. Cautiously he made his way to the door and quickly pushed it all the way open, so he could see the entire room. His frown deepened when he realized it was empty. He must have left it open and forgotten about it then. Minato sighed and his eyes wandered to the baby piano in the middle of the room that had been painted a deep blue with lighter blue swirls decorating it. Minato had lovingly named it Raisin Gan. He walked over and lifted up the dark blue cover. The black and white keys stared up at him and Minato ran his hand lightly down the entire piano, smiling as the notes filled the air. Minato had played the piano since he was 4. He'd been pretty good back in the day. He'd attended several concerts and was considered to be a very accomplished piano player by the classical circles. But he'd stopped 18 years ago. After Kushina had left, he couldn't bear to play music anymore. Kushina Uzumaki had been the love of his life. Fun, vibrant, and temperamental, Kushina was everything he wasn't. He'd loved how different she was from him and his rich family, how alive she'd made him feel. A year after they met, Minato had asked her to marry him. When she accepted, he brought her to meet his family. Only months later, Kushina was gone, leaving only a note behind to say goodbye and to tell Minato to never look for her. Minato had always wondered why Kushina had deserted him. He'd had the suspicions that it had to do with his family for a long time. His family, while generally loving towards him, had never approved of his wild, rock-star girlfriend. He'd never been able to find Kushina. She'd covered her tracks well. And since then, Minato had never been able to perform in front of other people. He rarely played music for his own pleasure anymore. He had his work and the kids he worked with, and that was all he needed. But staring down at the familiar 88 keys, he couldn't help but be filled with the urge to play. Music was in his blood. He'd never stop playing, even if he lost all of the joy in doing it. Minato abruptly sat down, placing his hands on the keys. He'd grown up learning classical music, learning how to play perfectly and methodically. He'd hated that. Minato preferred modern music, Kushina's music. His hands started to move across the keys, and notes filled the air. Minato smiled and opened his mouth to sing. I'm down on my knees again tonight. I am hoping this prayer will turn out right. See, there is a boy that needs your help. I've done all that I can do myself. His mother is tired. I am sure you can understand. Each night, as he sleeps, she goes in to hold his hand and she tries not to cry as the tears fill her eyes. Can you hear me? Am I getting through tonight? Can you see him? Can you make him feel all right? If you can hear me, let me take his place somehow. See, he's not just anyone's my son. Sometimes late at night I watch him sleep. I dream of the boy he'd like to be. Try to be strong and see him through, but God, who he needs right now is you. Let him grow old, live life without this fear. What would I be leaving without him here? He's so tired and he's scared. Let him know that you're there. Can you hear me? Am I getting through tonight? Can you see him? Can you make him feel all right? If you can hear me, let me take his place somehow. See, he's not just anyone's my son. Can you hear me? Can you see him? Please don't leave him's my son. While Kushina had always adored the rock groups of her childhood, ranging from Bob Dylan to Led Zeppelin, Minato had always been more of an alternative and Christian rock type of guy. He loved lyrics he could sing about, and he loved finding the stories in the lyrics. Christian music was always so powerful. Their emotions and words spoke deeply to anyone, whether they believed in God or not. This particular song caught his interest because of the powerful emotions behind it. The lyrics had touched him deeply, and the song's melody was sad and sweet, something Minato enjoyed singing immensely. He sighed as the last notes filled the air, and looked down at where his fingers had frozen on the keys. It had been so long since he'd played. A year, maybe even 2, had passed since his hands had touched these keys. Minato felt a powerful sense of regret at that. He'd always loved music, even if it was the one thing his family kept forcing him into. Music was a form of expressing himself. Music was something that connected him to other people, Kushina most prominently. And he'd pushed that out of his life, focusing instead on his work at Konoha. Minato sighed and stood, replacing the cover on his piano. He'd play more, he promised himself as he left the room. Now that he'd stirred up the old emotions, there was no way he could go back to ignoring the music in his soul. Naruto was nervous as he slid into his music history classroom. It was the first day that he'd actually meet his real teacher. He'd heard whispers in the hallways that Minato Namikaze had returned after a nasty bout of the flu, and that information had filled him with queasiness. Like he told Jiraiya, Namikaze was his last hope for another sane teacher. Naruto wasn't sure he'd be able to take it if it turned out his history teacher was as crazy as the rest of them. He slid into the seat next to Shikamaru, whom he'd grown closer to since the lazy teenager had revealed he knew about Naruto's past. Naruto didn't doubt that there were more that knew. Kyuubi was well known in certain circles, and he knew that some of the kids probably had police officer parents who'd heard about him, but Shikamaru had been decent enough to come out and tell him about the knowledge he had. He'd left Naruto alone after their short standoff, as the blonde had requested, and Naruto respected him for that. "He's not here yet?" Naruto asked his half-asleep friend. Shikamaru opened one eye lazily, giving him a look. Naruto grinned at him. Shikamaru wasn't the type to talk when he didn't have to. Their silent interaction was broken by the door opening to admit a tall blonde man dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, piles of papers in his arms. The students instantly quieted down, and Naruto guessed that this must be the infamous Minato Namikaze. He studied the teacher's face and frowned when he realized that it looked vaguely familiar. Something about the features he dismissed the feeling. Maybe it was his imagination playing tricks on him. "All right, I know I've been gone for a while, but I hope you've been learning as much as when I'm here," Minato said, setting his papers on the desk. "Your sub liked you well enough, so you get gold stars for that, but I need to make sure she did her job properly." So the maniacal grin filled his students with fear. "Pop quiz time!" Loud groans echoed over the room. "But first, attendance." Minato skipped down the list with the ease of a practice teacher. However, his voice faltered as he came to the last name on his list, Uzumaki, Naruto. "Uzumaki!" he called out, looking up from his list to search the room. A hand rose in the back and blue eyes locked with blue. Minato took in the blonde teenager, startled at how similar the kid looked to himself. He has Kushina's last name, he thought, stuck somewhere between awe and sorrow. "Kushina's name and your face," a voice whispered in the back of his head. And in his subconscious a hope slowly bloomed. "I'm home," Naruto called, tossing his backpack by the front door and slipping off his shoes. Jiraiya didn't answer, which made Naruto frown. He made his way into the kitchen and was surprised to see his guardian seated at the table, a pile of mail propped up in front of him, looking troubled. Naruto frowned. He rarely saw Jiraiya this serious. Instead of grabbing something to eat, he slipped into the chair opposite of the white-haired man. Jiraiya didn't look at him, but he slid over an envelope. Naruto's heart froze when he saw his name on the front. The writing. The writing on the envelope was painfully familiar. The spiked M's, the lack of curl on the U. There was only one person he knew that wrote like that. Naruto's hands trembled as he opened the envelope and pulled out a letter. Dearest Naruto. How are you, my dear little charge? Still playing that lovely music of yours, I hope? After all, it would be such a disappointment for you to stop, talented as you are. I'm doing well, or as well as one can be coming from a jail cell. Ah, but on to why I write. You may have noticed that I've escaped the ball and chain, those pesky jail guards, so inattentive these days. Yes, that's right, Naruto. I'm free. Free as a bird. I can do whatever I please, take whatever I want. And the thing I want most in the world is you. You can't escape me, Naruto, not this time. You'll be mine again, Kitling. And no old man will keep us apart. Yours truly, Kyubi. P.S. I'm closer than you think. See you soon, Naruto. Naruto was pale by the time he set the letter down, and the trembling in his hand had increased so dramatically that the paper fell to the table when he couldn't keep a good grip on it. He looked at Jiraiya with wide eyes. Jiraiya's face was calm and serious, but his dark eyes were sympathetic. Naruto, he started, and the blonde jumped up like a frightened rabbit. Get out, get out, get out, he thought, rushing out of the kitchen and into the living room. He searched wildly for an escape route, ignoring Jiraiya's calls behind him, and his eyes fell on his guitar, which he'd yet to put back. Music, he thought, and grabbed the instrument. Then he was rushing through the door, and into the car Jiraiya had gotten him for school. Get out, get out, get out. Naruto drove as fast as he dared. He didn't care where he was going, only that he was going, that he was getting as far away from that awful letter as he could. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Kyubi was free again. When his old guardian had been put in jail, he'd been sentenced to 25 years of prison. By the time he should have gotten out, Kyubi would have been approaching 60. But he should have figured that the man would get out. Kyubi was the wheeliest person Naruto knew. Naruto felt panic rise in his stomach, and he took a sharp turn as soon as he could, driving down into a small town surrounded by trees. He drove until he found a spot to park, alongside a cozy-looking gazebo and park, and then flung himself out of the car, dry heaving as soon as he hit the ground. He's back, he's free as a bird, he thought in panic, spittle coming from his mouth as he heaved. He wants me back, he's going to get me, God, please don't let him get me. Slowly, his panic gasping grew calmer as his thoughts organized. Jiraiya won't let him, he thought, trying to ease the knot of panic curling in his stomach. Jiraiya will stop him. That thought managed to stop his panic attack, and for a while Naruto just laid in the grass, feeling the warmth of the sun on his back. Slowly he eased up into a sitting position and then stood up. His fingers itched, and he carefully made his way back to his abandoned car, whose door was still opened. He reached in and pulled out his guitar, bringing it close to his chest. For a while, Naruto just stood there, clutching the guitar as if it was a lifeline instead of just an instrument. And then he sat again, not even bothering to move to a more comfortable place, and propped the guitar on his knee. There were many songs that Naruto could have played, but only one popped into his head the moment he hit the ground. It was harder and darker than what he usually played, but then, he wasn't exactly in a happy mood at the moment. He started to play the opening chords, and then opened his mouth to sing out the words. A long day alone, emptiness is so real, never having peace of mind, running from what I can't sing, and there is nowhere left to hide, turn and face these empty lies all alone, heart unturned trying to find. Break me down, replace this fear inside, take this nothingness from me, want to fight, I want to shine, I want to rise, break me down. I tried to find myself, I find the stranger trapped inside, and I'll take one more step away from the face I used to recognize, familiar shadows closing in, suffocating fear descends, you killed a life, uncovered eyes. I'm trying to find, break me down, replace this fear inside, take this nothingness from me, want to fight, I want to shine, I want to rise, break me down. Replace this fear inside, take this nothingness from me, want to fight, I want to shine, I want to rise, break me down. Break me down, I want to fight, I want to shine, I want to rise, break me down. Break me down, I want to fight, I want to shine, I want to rise, break me down. Break me. His fingers stopped, suddenly, on the last chord as he felt the buildup of tears in the back of his throat. He settled the guitar on the ground next to them, and then cradled his head in his hands. God, he couldn't deal with this. It had been a year since he'd seen Kyubi's face, and he thought he'd gotten better. He'd even approached the idea that he could go see the bastard without breaking down completely. Obviously not, he thought with a mental laugh that sounded hysterical, even in his own head. He pressed his face further in his hands, unwilling to look at the world around him. God, what did I do to deserve this? I thought my nightmare was over. Naruto had never been particularly religious, but even the most atheist of people tended to rail on God when things got bad or scary. Mr. Uzumaki? Is that you? Naruto looked up blearily when he heard someone shouting his name. He blinked when he saw eyes as blue as his own. His history teacher was staring down at him, a frown on his face. "It is you," he said. "What are you doing here?" Naruto didn't want to tell him the real reason. "I went for a drive and got a little lost," he said with a shrug. "It seemed like a nice place, so I decided to stop for a bit." Minato didn't think that was the whole story, otherwise, why would Uzumaki look like someone killed his puppy when he seen him? But he let it rest. After all, he couldn't expect the boy to confide in him. He was only his history teacher. Minato ignored the slight twist in his heart at that thought. "Do you need directions on how to get back to your house?" he asked in concern. Naruto shook his head. "No, I think I'll be alright." He hesitated for a moment. "Do you mind if I use your phone really quickly? My guardian is probably worried about me." "Sure," Minato said, watching as Naruto gathered up his guitar and locked the doors of his car. They fell in step next to each other as they made their way to Minato's house across the street. "You play the guitar?" Minato asked casually. He took in Naruto's tense posture with perceptive eyes but didn't say anything about it out loud. "Yeah," Naruto muttered. "Piano, too." "Really?" Minato said with a smile. "That's excellent." Naruto just tensed further, and Minato decided that a change of subject might be needed. "I play the piano as well, or I used to, anyways." Curious blue eyes looked up at him. "Really?" Naruto asked cautiously. Minato grinned. Really? I have a baby grand at home. I can show it to you, if you'd like." "It's called Rasengan," he added proudly. Naruto's lip twitched. "Spiraling sphere?" he asked with amusement. "That's an interesting name for a piano." Minato pouted. "It sounds cooler in Japanese," he said. Naruto laughed. "Most things do," he said. They'd reached Minato's front door. "Come on inside," the older blonde said, leading Naruto through the door. "The phone's just this way." Naruto took in the tidy living room and spotless kitchen with curious eyes. "Neat freak?" he asked, and Minato blushed a little. Naruto laughed again. "Yes, well," Minato muttered and then turned to the small white corded phone hanging from his kitchen wall. "Feel free to use it as long as you like. I may be a teacher, but I get paid well." "Thanks, Mr. Namikaze," Naruto said, picking up the phone with a smile. He dialed Jiraiya's cell phone number and waited for his guardian to pick up anxiously. "Hello?" Naruto winced. Jiraiya sounded pissed. Hey?" he offered weakly. "Naruto, is that you?" Naruto winced again. "Where the hell have you been? I've been searching for you for over an hour." "Sorry, Ero-sennin." "Don't call me that." "But I just needed to get away. I'm in West St. Paul. Actually, I found Mr. Namikaze's house." "You're in Mendota?" Jiraiya sounded amazed. "How you managed to find the most well-hidden hick town in Minnesota purely by accident is beyond me, Naruto." He gave a long sigh. "Well, if you're with Minato, you must be alright. He'd be giving me a stern lecture about raising kids properly if you looked bad." "But Naruto," Jiraiya's voice turned from angry to concerned. "How are you holding up?" Naruto hesitated before answering. "Not my best," he admitted with a sigh. "But I can deal with this. I've dealt with worse, right? I just needed to get away for a while. To work this through on my own, you know? I don't think I could have stayed there with that. Will you burn it for me? I don't want to be reminded of him." "I've called the police," Jiraiya told him. "They're on the lookout. And yes, I'll burn the letter for you. Hopefully they'll catch him soon and you won't have to put up with this shit anymore." "Good," Naruto sighed. "Well, I'll be home soon." "And Jiraiya," he hesitated. "Yes, Naruto?" "Thanks. For everything." Jiraiya was quiet for a moment before he said, "No problem, kiddo. I'll see you in a little while. Say hi to Minato for me." "I will. Bye, Ero-sennin." Naruto hung up. "Everything's fine then?" The blonde whirled around when he heard Minato's voice to find the older blonde leaning against the kitchen doorway. Naruto relaxed a little and even managed to dredge up a smile. "Yeah. Thanks for letting me use your phone, Mr. Namikaze." "No problem. Now, before you go, do you want to see my piano?" Minato's eyes were twinkling with amusement. Naruto nodded, and his teacher grinned. Good. Just follow me, and prepare to be amazed." Naruto chuckled at Minato's enthusiasm as the older blonde led him up the stairs. However, when he actually saw the piano, he could see why his teacher was so enamored with it. "It's beautiful," he said, running a hand over the dark blue cover. It was a smaller and stouter piano than he was used to, but it had its own elegance. "Do you mind if I?" He gestured to the cover. "No. Not at all," Minato said, watching with a smile as Naruto sat and opened the cover to reveal 88 flawlessly kept keys. "If you want to play something," Minato let the implication hang in the air. He didn't want to make the kid feel uncomfortable, but he was curious about Naruto's talent. Naruto hesitated. He didn't know if he wanted to play something. The keys called to him, as they always did, but he could barely play in front of Kakashi and Jiraiya. But something about Minato calmed him. It was odd, this feeling that he felt better in the presence of a man he barely knew than in the guardian whom he trusted above all else. Of their own accord, his fingers played the opening notes of a soft, quiet song. Naruto had loved the music and words when he'd found it at school, and it had quickly become one of his favorites. The words, as soft and quiet as the melody, spilled out easily. "Little child, be not afraid though rain pounds harshly against the glass like an unwanted stranger, there is no danger, I am here tonight. Little child, be not afraid though thunder explodes and lightning flash illuminates your tear-stained face, I am here tonight. And someday you'll know that nature is so, the same rain that draws you near me falls on rivers and land and forests, and sand makes the beautiful world that you'll see in the morning. Little child, be not afraid though storm clouds mask your beloved moon and its candlelight beams, still keep pleasant dreams, I am here tonight. Little child, be not afraid though wind makes creatures of our trees and their branches to hands, they're not real, understand, and I am here tonight. For you know, once even I was a little child, and I was afraid, but a gentle someone always came to dry all my tears, trade sweet sleep for fears, and to give a kiss goodnight. Well, now I am grown and these years have shown that rain's a part of how life goes, but it's dark and it's late, so I'll hold you and wait till your frightened eyes do close. And I hope that you'll know everything's fine in the morning, the rain will be gone in the morning, but I'll still be here in the morning." Minato felt a pang in his heart at the soft lullaby that Naruto was singing in such a husky voice. The boy had talent, his fingers never wavered, his voice was soft and steady, his beats strong. It reminded him, ironically, much of himself, when he was younger and still had a love for the music. When the final notes faded from the air, Minato said, "That was very good, Mr. Uzumaki." Naruto's eyes were bright in his face when he looked up at Minato. "Thank you, Mr. Namikaze." His voice was subdued and bordering on sad. Silence spread across the room, as Naruto stared down at the keys, pondering the comfortable ease in which he played for this strange teacher that he barely knew, while Minato silently wondered at his affection for this blonde teenager so like him in spirit and face, and who, by some strange coincidence, had the last name of the woman he loved. Minneapolis, Minnesota, October 8, 2007. A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing, our helper he, amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing, for still our ancient foe doth seek to work us woe. His craft and power are great, and armed with cruel hate, on earth is not his equal. Hinata Hyuga closed her eyes, letting the sound of the family choir wash over her. The Hyuga family was full of talent. Their personal choir was no exception. Hinata had never heard a might fortress is our God sung so beautifully. Tears prickled at the edge of her eyes. If only she could be like them. Happy to sing the hymns that had been passed down through generations, to keep their faith locked up so tightly in a box that they forgot that there was ever an outside to it. Did we in our own strength confide, our striving would be losing, were not the right man on our side, the man of God's own choosing. Dost ask who that may be? Christ Jesus, it is he, Lord Sabaoth, his name, from age to age the same, and he must win the battle. Hinata's family was very strict and very religious. Good Hyugas despised the newer practices of Christianity. Her father had preached to her more than once that the older practices had lasted thousands of years. Why should they change them? Hinata wished she felt the same, that she could be the perfect Hyuga heiress whose only wish was to have exactly 2 children before dedicating her life to God. She did want to live for God, but not in the way her father wanted her to. She didn't want to live in this tightly controlled world, where faith was more a ritual than a passion. And though this world, with devils filled, should threaten to undo us, we will not fear, for God hath willed his truth to triumph through us. The prince of darkness grim, we tremble not for him, his rage we can endure, for lo, his doom is sure, one little word shall fell him. Hinata loved to sing. It was one of the few things in her life that she enjoyed that her father approved of. She loved God, she loved her faith, and she wanted to sing about her love. But not in the stoic hymns that she'd heard since childhood. She wanted her faith to be passion, she wanted her music to be something that would draw non-believers and bring tears to their eyes. Hymns wouldn't do that. For years, Hinata had tried to be the good daughter. She had gone to church every Sunday, had sung in her church choir, had practiced and memorized the dull hymns that she disliked so much. But as every year of this duplicity, fakeness, went by, she grew more and more shy, lost more and more of herself. She couldn't do it anymore. But she didn't know how to break it to her father, to her family. How could she tell them that she was turning her back on all of their teachings, that she was going to become the one thing they hated most? She loved her family, and she didn't want to lose them. But if the choice was between her sense of self and her family, then she would choose herself. Because choosing her family had made her a shell of what she once was, and Hinata was young enough to want to find herself before she lost her spirit completely. Hinata's eyes opened again, and the tears prickling the edge of them didn't show anywhere. Instead, she had a perfectly calm look on her face. She would tell her family. Eventually. That word above all earthly powers, no thanks to them, abideth. The spirit and the gifts are ours through him who with us sideth. Let goods and kindred go, this mortal life also, the body they may kill. God's truth abideth still, his kingdom is forever. Sorrowful and chaotic, the notes of Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony were perfect for Niji Hyuga's current mood. Of course, there was no orchestra surrounding him, only the lonely sounds of the piano. But it echoed just as painfully, nonetheless. Good music always sounded wonderful, no matter how many instruments were playing it. His hands had started cramping sometime around minute 7, but Niji continued gamely on, determined to finish the long song. He needed to finish it. Music was all he had left, now. When the final notes filled the air, Niji pulled away from the keys with a gasp, as if he was resurfacing from a deep lake instead of finishing a piano piece. He looked down at the black and white keys shakily, and for a moment he saw a mouth of teeth grinning up at him, waiting to swallow him whole. Niji slammed the cover down immediately, panting as he stared at his reflection in the smooth black. That was good, a voice said, distracting him. He turned to see a blonde standing in the doorway. Niji frowned. He didn't like people watching his practices, especially not this one, when his mood was far from the usual peace music inspired in him. The blonde, undeterred by the Hyuga's glare, walked into the room. My name's Naruto Uzumaki, by the way, he said, pulling up a chair that would usually be used for the piano instructor. He sat close to the piano and leaned forward to examine Niji with disconcertingly blue eyes. Their eyes locked in a staring contest. Niji, to his shame, was the first to look away. Niji Hyuga, he said. Naruto brightened. Do you have a sister named Hinata? She's my cousin, Niji told him. He's in class with Hinata? He thought privately, eyeing the blonde curiously. She's really nice, Naruto said. A little shy, but nice. Do you always play like that? Niji blinked at the sudden subject change. Like what? He asked warily. Naruto frowned for a moment. Like he waved a hand at the piano, like you're suffering. Like the piano is a release for your pain. Naruto's eyes were bright in his face as he looked at Niji. Niji was disturbed by this insight. How long were you watching me? Naruto shrugged. I managed to see at least the last 5 minutes. You play very passionately, but also he hesitated, very sad. Niji closed his eyes. He didn't want to say anything to this strange blonde with 2 perceptive ears and eyes. He could barely acknowledge his faults to himself, let alone a stranger. Naruto seemed to sense this, for he stood and said, You don't have to tell me anything. But sometimes his face took on a strange look, half of which Niji recognized as pain. What the other half was, the Hyuga couldn't tell. Naruto cleared his throat. Sometimes it's better to let it all out. And when the pain is bad enough, it doesn't matter if that person is a stranger or close to you. Naruto gave him a hesitant smile. If you ever want to talk, I'm willing to listen. Niji watched as Naruto walked out of the room, and suddenly he realized what the other emotion on the younger boy's face had been. Sympathy. He eyed the empty doorway. Naruto Uzumaki HM? Maybe I'll take him up on that offer. Jiraiya woke to pounding at his door and rain splattering against his window. He rubbed his eyes, glancing at the digital clock next to his bed, 2:33 a.m., wondering who the hell was stupid enough to wake him up so early in the middle of a thunderstorm. He considered just ignoring it, but the knocking grew louder with every second. Grumbling, he moved to the front door. He was surprised to see his next-door neighbor, Naruto, standing on the steps, looking worse than a drowned rat with a terrified expression on his face. Immediately, Jiraiya ushered him inside, wondering what had happened to the kid. Naruto wasn't the type to bother him like this for nothing. I didn't know where else to go, the blonde whispered to him, as Jiraiya settled him at the kitchen table and got some hot chocolate started. You're the only person I could think of. Jiraiya hurriedly got some towels and worked on drying the blonde off. What happened? He asked, rubbing the towel against Naruto's hair. The blonde flinched. He seemed at a loss for what to say. Jiraiya sighed. Are you hurt? Naruto shook his head, but his eyes darted to his wrists. Jiraiya frowned and pulled away the clingy long sleeves the boy always seemed to wear before Naruto could protest. Naruto's flinch went unnoticed when Jiraiya saw the wounds. His vision went red. Wrapped around Naruto's two thin wrists were two clear handprints, already turning a darkened purple. He could see the beginning of bruises starting along Naruto's arm, and Jiraiya swore under his breath. Who did this to you? He demanded to know. Naruto was a sweet kid, Jiraiya liked him a lot. He was furious that someone would hurt him like that. Naruto's eyes were huge in his face, and his skin had paled dramatically. Jiraiya hurriedly withdrew his hands. The boy looked ready to faint. Naruto? He asked cautiously. The blonde closed his eyes. I can't, he said with a gasp, almost as if he was hyperventilating instead of just sitting still. Jiraiya eyed his chest for a moment, making sure that the kid was taking deep, steady breaths, before he turned back to his question. Please tell me, Naruto, he said. I need to know so I can tell the police. Naruto's eyes got impossibly wider. The police? He stammered out. And no. He grabbed Jiraiya's sleeve. Why you can't tell them? Naruto, why not? Jiraiya was frowning. Then they can arrest the one who did this to you. But he said. Jiraiya leaned forward. What? He said with more gentleness than he'd ever guessed possible in himself. What did he say? Naruto took a deep, shuddering breath. He said that I'd be the one punished and not him. Naruto, Jiraiya said, growing more concerned with every stuttered word. Who said that? What's going on? You can tell me. Naruto was shivering now, and Jiraiya couldn't tell if it was because of his rain-soaked clothes or whatever secret he was keeping so close to his heart. Why you'll help me? Naruto asked timidly. Jiraiya nodded immediately. Why you won't leave? No, Naruto. I won't, he promised, without thinking. Naruto released a shuddering sigh. He looked scared and shaken, and Jiraiya realized just how young Naruto was. The boy couldn't be more than 16. "Am my guardian," Naruto said, as firmly as he could. His violent shiver revealed his real terror. Naruto looked away. Jiraiya was 58 years old. He knew emotions like rage intimately well. But whatever had made him angry in the past paled next to the fury he was feeling the moment Naruto revealed that he was being hurt by the one person he should have trusted above all else. He drew the boy close, ignoring Naruto's flinch. You'll be fine, kiddo, he said. He didn't let go even when Naruto started to sob, his tears staining Jiraiya's neck. I'll make sure of it. Sometimes I feel like I'm just existing. I am not really living. I am only watching the time slip away. I've forgotten who I am and you. I am not who I'm meant to be. I am drifting farther away from my destiny. Awaken my heart, awaken my soul, awaken you power and take control, awaken the passion to live for you, Lord, awaken me. My soul is longing, my heart is searching, I am desperate for you to move, give me a hunger, pull me closer, I am crying out to you. Awaken my heart, awaken my soul, awaken you power and take control, awaken the passion to live for you, Lord, awaken me. Open my eyes so I can see your presence dwelling inside, wake me up, 'cause I can't live another minute if I'm not shining your light. Awaken my heart, awaken my soul, awaken the passion inside of me. Lord, awaken me to live my destiny, Lord, awaken me and shine your light through me, Lord, awaken me to live my destiny, Lord, awaken me and shine your light through me. Hinata was at her most passionate, her voice ringing in the deserted concert hall. She wasn't afraid someone would find her, rather, she hoped someone would. It would give her the boost she needed to tell her family, for someone else to find out and tell them of her forbidden activity. The song she was singing was one of her favorites. Natalie Grant always seemed to sum up her feelings for herself and God so easily. Hinata wished she had the same gift. Her feelings were usually so blurry to her, only when she was singing like this did they become clear. But as the song faded, so did the clarity of feeling, and she was left as her usual confused self. Hinata sighed and stood. She should be getting home. But she cast a longing glance at the piano, wishing she could just sit down and play the music she loved so much. Play something else, a voice commanded, and Hinata turned with a gasp to see the blonde boy who'd she'd met some days ago sitting in the middle row of the huge auditorium. She hadn't even noticed him coming in. What? She stuttered out, her voice echoing in the large room. The blonde, Hinata thought his name was Naruto, smiled up at her. You should play more, he said, gesturing to the piano. You have a very sweet voice. Hinata blushed. I can't, she said. I have to get home. The blonde nodded and stood. Hinata hesitantly made her way from the stage to his side. Naruto smiled as she approached. You're Hinata, right? We met a couple days back. Hinata nodded, surprised he remembered her. And you're Naruto, she murmured. The one who plays piano so well. Naruto's expression darkened slightly, but his smile didn't fade. Yeah, that's me. So, Hinata, you're Christian? Why, yes, she said. And my family is very big on religion. She wasn't sure why she was sharing this with him, but there was something about the blonde that drew her in. There was pain etched into the lines of his face, suffering in his eyes, and yet, he was smiling with such brightness. Hinata had never seen such contradiction, and it intrigued her. Maybe he can understand, she thought, almost desperately. All I want is for someone to understand. Really? That must have been tough to grow up with. Naruto's voice was soft and sympathetic. Hinata had a lump rising in her throat. Why, yes, she murmured pitifully. Why, you have no idea, she trailed off, feeling tears build in her eyes. Naruto looked alarmed at her sudden sadness. Hey, are you all right? He asked in concern, putting a warm hand on her shoulder. That broke the dam that kept Hinata's tears at bay, and suddenly she was sobbing. Naruto looked panicked. Hey, what is it? What's wrong? My family is very strict, she managed to tell him through tears. They don't like modern Christian practices. But all I want to do is sing like Natalie G. Grant. I don't want to become a nun, I don't want to sing hymns all day, her voice broke. Naruto's hand was a warm, comforting weight on her shoulder. Your family won't like it if you sing Christian rock? He asked, sounding confused and sympathetic at the same time. They're so strict. Hinata wailed. I just want to sing to G God. What's wrong with that? Nothing, Hinata, nothing, Naruto soothed her, drawing her into an awkward half-hug. Hinata cried on his shoulder for quite a while in silence before she managed to calm down and pull away. She dabbed at her eyes, feeling embarrassed from her sudden outburst. He must think I'm a baby, she thought miserably. To cry over something like this. I'm probably just overdramatizing it, and it really isn't as bad as I think it is. Hinata, Naruto said, drawing her out of her thoughts. If your family is so close-minded that they can't accept the beauty of music, any music, then you have a choice to make. It's either the people you love, or the thing you love to do. Hinata was startled. Naruto had just summed up the thoughts she'd been having yesterday in the family church neatly. I know, she told him miserably. But they're my family. I love them. And I know they'll hate me for this. Naruto gave her a direct stare. Hinata, they're your family, but you can't diminish yourself for them. You have a wonderful voice, you have a passion for God. You have something you want to do, and they don't have the right to stop you. If they try to, then they aren't true family. Hinata winced. She knew that she would probably end up losing the support of her family, but even to think of being cut off was painful. Despite his strict tendencies, her father was a kind, gentle man. She loved her little sister, her cousins, her aunts and uncles. They would hate her for doing what she loved, as they hated all singers of Christian rock. I've already made my choice, Hinata whispered. But I don't want to let go. Sometimes you have to, Hinata, Naruto told her, his blue eyes full of sympathy. Sometimes it's better to let go. I know, she said, feeling a heavy weight lean on her heart. I know. Too. Minato Namikaze was surprised when he opened his door to see his old teacher and colleague standing on his doorstep. Jiraiya! He exclaimed, standing aside to let the older man inside. It's good to see you. What are you doing here? Jiraiya smirked as he stomped into the living room. I just wanted to thank you for taking care of my charge the other day. When Minato just gave him a blank stare, clearly not understanding what he was talking about, Jiraiya sighed. Naruto, idiot boy. I wanted to thank you for making sure he was all right. Naruto is your charge? Minato asked incredulously. I had no idea. His eyes turned mischievous. I wonder how the kid managed to turn out as well as he did. Jiraiya's eyes turned serious instead of joking. Sometimes, so do I, he said quietly. Minato's lightheartedness died when he saw the look in his colleague's eyes. Okay, insert foot in mouth, he muttered, gesturing for Jiraiya to take a seat. What did I say? Jiraiya shook his head. Nothing, Minato. It's just that kid. Jiraiya paused, hesitant, and then shook his head again. That kid's been through so damn much, it's a miracle that he turned out as well as he did. Minato frowned as he took a seat across from Jiraiya. Is there a story you're willing to tell, or are you just going to leave me with the cryptic answer? Jiraiya smiled slightly. I'll tell you about Naruto. Usually, I would keep my mouth zipped and let the kid spill his guys himself, But you could do something good for him, Minato, and you need to know the whole story. Minato was puzzled by the do something good for him part of the sentence, but he let it go, for now. Later, he'd interrogate Jiraiya on what exactly he meant by that. He settled back into his chair. Alright, what happened? Jiraiya took a deep breath. 2 years ago, someone moved in next door to me. 2 someones, actually. Naruto and his ex-guardian. Jiraiya's voice was filled with loathing. I didn't like Kyuubi, that was Naruto's guardian, but Naruto was something else. Jiraiya's voice turned affectionate. He was the most curious kid I've ever met. He was always asking me about this or that, especially when he found out I taught lit. Kid's completely useless when it comes to books. He was always asking for my help with the English homework he got when he was homeschooled. But Naruto, he was a strange kid too, you know? One moment he was bright and curious and happy, and the next he'd withdrawn into himself. At first, I thought it was just teenagers being teenagers. But I noticed things as time went by. How Naruto flinched when I touched him. How he never played music for me, even after I found out he could play. How nervous he was around Kyuubi, whenever I saw the two together. One night, Naruto came to my house early in the morning. He was shaking and terrified, and there were bruises on his arms. I made him confess that his guardian abused him. Jiraiya's voice was shaking now, and Minato was full of shock. He couldn't fathom that Naruto, of all people, had been abused. The kid was so full of life, it was unthinkable that he'd been hurt like that. He told me the details later, when he trusted me more. Even now, I don't think I know everything. Kyuubi adopted Naruto when he was 9, about a year after his mother died. Minato's heart stopped at that, but Jiraiya didn't notice his panic and continued with his story. He was fascinated with Naruto's talent with music, how effortlessly it came to him, how he could play anything after hearing it once, how his compositions were so complex for such a little child. Naruto said that Kyuubi made him play for him for entertainment. He got drunk a lot of the time, and he beat Naruto after he was done playing the selected music for the night, cursing his gift for music and telling him how worthless he was. Jiraiya was full of righteous anger, and Minato was right there with him. God, that poor kid, he thought. To be hurt for such a wonderful talent, to be told that you're worthless even with such a gift, it was the worst kind of punishment. Naruto probably would have stayed there too. It's the kind of kid he is. He picks up after himself. He never would talk about his problems. Jiraiya's voice was a muddle of pride and sadness. Except that one night Kyuubi started talking about doing sexual things with Naruto. He panicked, I guess, fled to my house the same night after Kyuubi went to bed. There's a lot of things that boy can take, but that kind of abuse wasn't one of them. God, Minato said, a sick feeling rising in his stomach. Jiraiya spared him a sympathetic smile. I know. I called the cops, and we managed to get Kyuubi in jail. Naruto's my charge now, he has been for the past year. He's been recuperating, getting back on his feet, so to speak. But even now, he doesn't like to play for people. He's terrified of being beaten again. I thought Konoha would help him with that. I want him to heal. I want him to move past this. Minato stood and went to Jiraiya's side. The older man looked upset, almost on the verge of tears. Minato hadn't seen him like this, ever. The blonde put a hand on his shoulder. I'll watch out for him, he said, and the promise sounded hollow in his ears, but Jiraiya was smiling. I know you will, he said. And I'm holding you to that. Naruto's going to need all the help he can get. Neji eyed the door in front of him thoughtfully. He wasn't sure why he was doing this, and that was the thing that bothered him the most. Neji wasn't the type to be spontaneous. He lived by a rigorous code that spelled out exactly what he was supposed to do. He had rules, he had plans, and he had the comfort of predictability. But all that had flown out of the window, and that led him to where he was, standing at the steps of Naruto Uzumaki's home, staring at the doorbell as if it held the answers to all of his problems. Neji sighed. He couldn't back out now. Hesitantly, he pressed the small white button, wincing as the bell rang inside. He shuffled uncomfortably, waiting for someone to open the door. He was surprised when the door finally did open to reveal his English teacher, Jiraiya Sannin. Mr. Sannin, Neji said, never one to show his surprise. I'm here to see Naruto? He let the barest hint of a question hang on the edge of that sentence. Jiraiya looked surprised, but not that surprised. Of course you're here to see him, the old man said in resignation. He waved Neji in. He's in the living room. Tell him I'm going out for the day. Whatever heart-to-heart you two have, I don't want to hear it. Jiraiya grabbed his coat and hurried out the door, leaving Neji behind to blink at the man's back in bemusement. Neji shrugged and turned to find his way into the living room. Naruto's house was, thankfully, small enough that he didn't get turned around too many times. He was surprised to find Naruto sitting in the middle of the living room floor, not doing anything. The blonde's eyes were closed, and he had a peaceful look on his face. Uzumaki? Niji asked, unsure about how to address this strange boy. Naruto's eyes shot open. Niji! He exclaimed, hurrying to his feet. What are you doing here? How did you even get here? Niji smirked, relaxing when Naruto didn't push him away. I asked Headmaster Sarutobi where you lived, he told Naruto blandly. And I wanted to take you up on your offer, he added, a little more hesitantly. Naruto instantly sobered. We can talk in here, he said, gesturing to the couches behind him. Niji thankfully sank into a cushion, Naruto next to him, and watching with solemn blue eyes. What's troubling you, Niji? Niji took a deep breath, wondering if he really wanted to do this. To reveal this part of himself. But looking into Naruto's bright eyes, he couldn't help but feel this was the right thing to do. So he opened his mouth and began. Sanine Residence, Minneapolis, October 9, 2007. Previously on Dissonance. What's troubling you, Niji? Niji took a deep breath, wondering if he really wanted to do this. To reveal this part of himself. But looking into Naruto's bright eyes, he couldn't help but feel this was the right thing to do. So he opened his mouth and began. My family is very religious, he said uncomfortably. Yeah, that's what Hinata said, Naruto said casually, making Niji throw him a startled look. You've talked to Hinata? He asked, confused. Naruto's lips thinned. Yeah. She's been having problems of her own with your family's love of religion. But never mind that, continue what you were saying. Naruto leaned forward intently. Niji shifted, uncomfortable once more. My family follows the scripture as if it was law, he admitted uneasily. And I've found that I'm not. He made a frustrated noise in the back of his throat. He didn't know how to admit this out loud when he was barely even able to think about it in the private realm of his thoughts. I just need to say it, he thought, half desperate to get this secret off his chest. I'm gay. 1. The room was silent for a moment, Naruto and Niji staring at each other, each with wide eyes. Niji's hand moved to his mouth, almost as if he could take the words back. Naruto blinked back his shock. So? He asked. Niji blinked. It's wrong, he said in a low voice, tension radiating from him. The Bible says so. It's unnatural, and I'm sinning every time I think of another man that way. Naruto raised an eyebrow, a challenging look on his face. Unknown to Niji, this statement had raised Naruto's inner debater. I don't know much about religion or the Bible, he told Niji, but wasn't the Bible written thousands of years ago? Niji nodded, confused where Naruto was taking this. Yes, but... So if it was written that long ago, the culture was probably pretty different, yes? I mean, slaves were used regularly, and women were supposed to be submissive to men, right? And now, it isn't like that. We have laws against slavery, and treating women that badly is frowned upon. Does the Bible speak about slavery and women? Yes, it does, Niji said with a frown. He remembered back when he still went to Sunday school that his teacher had mentioned how people used to quote from the Bible to justify slavery, and sometimes even domestic abuse. Just like they do for gay people, he thought with surprise. So why can't the Bible be wrong about that too? Naruto asked. Does Jesus, not his apostles, but Jesus himself, say anything against homosexuality specifically? Niji racked his brain, trying to think of any place in the Bible that Jesus was quoted speaking against gay people. No, he admitted reluctantly. Not that I can think of. And even if the Bible is supposed to be the book of God, the apostles are just as human as we are, and just as capable of prejudices and mistakes, Naruto pointed out sensibly. Plus, it was written in the Middle East somewhere, wasn't it? The English translations could be wrong, or edited thanks to translators who are prejudiced. They might have thought it meant one thing, when it really didn't. Niji blinked. He really hadn't thought of that. To him, the Bible just was. It was the book of God, you weren't supposed to question it. It was all-powerful, all-knowing, anyone who suggested otherwise was a disbeliever. But he couldn't help but realize the powerful sensibility in Naruto's words, and doubts started to rise up in him. What if homosexuality wasn't a sin? What if God wouldn't send him to hell for sleeping with another man? And, the all-important question, what would it mean if his family was wrong about the basis of their homophobia? What then? Niji? Naruto asked, after the minutes of silence had stretched between them. You okay? Niji looked at him, taking in the blonde head to toe. Catching details like the swirls of blue in his eyes, the different shades of blonde in his hair, and the red running through his shirt. He nodded slowly, feeling as if the world had been spinning around and that it had just stopped, leaving Niji to stand there, sick and dizzy. I don't know, he said quietly, And now he wasn't sure if it was dizziness he was feeling or exhilaration. But I might be. Itachi wasn't sure why he was wandering the school after the final bell had rung, but he had his suspicions that it had to do with a certain blonde enigma. The kid had intrigued him. Never before had he been told that he wasn't good enough. Everyone loved Itachi, and everyone admired his playing. The blonde stood out from the rest of his faceless admirers, and with every passing day, Itachi's thoughts turned more and more to Naruto. The faint sound of music drifted up the hallway, too, and Itachi absently drifted after it. The melody was a pretty piano piece, accompanied by a soft voice. Itachi had never been one to like modern music. Classical spoke to him much more sharply, but he could see the appeal in pieces such as this. Other music, such as the stuff full of screaming and banging drums, Itachi thought was just an excuse to pawn money off of mindless teenagers. There was a man back in '95 whose heart ran out of summers, but before he died, I asked him, wait, what's the sense in life? Come over me. He said, son, why you got to sing that tune? Catch a Dylan song or some eclipse of the moon, let an angel swing and make you swoon, then you will see. The blonde sitting in front of the piano should have surprised him. Instead, Itachi found himself surprisingly unshocked. He'd known the blonde was strange the minute he told him that his music was good, but not good enough. Was it any surprise that his choice in music would differ from the teenagers that Itachi had met? Then he said, here's a riddle for you, find the answer, there's a reason for the world you and I picked up my kid from school today. Did you learn anything? Cause in the world today you can't live in a castle far away. Now talk to me, come talk to me. He said, Dad, I'm big, but we're smaller than small in the scheme of things. Well, we're nothing at all, still every mother's child sings a lonely song, so play with me, come play with me. And hey Dad, here's a riddle for you, find the answer, there's a reason for the world you and I. Itachi eyed Naruto, who hadn't yet noticed his presence, playing as passionately as he was. Itachi was able to recognize beauty, no matter in what gender, and Naruto had it in spades. It wasn't just in his coloring. Blonde and blue-eyed wasn't unusual in America, especially in the Midwest, but the way his hands made graceful motions on the piano, how his face creased with emotion as he played. There was beauty in his playing, and Itachi recognized that this was what was missing from his music, this outpouring of emotion that Naruto brought up so easily. When Naruto's face was full of emotion, Itachi's was stoic. When Naruto's body bended with the music, Itachi's was still and lifeless. It was a startling contradiction, and Itachi could see why Naruto didn't like the difference. He found himself preferring the blonde's playing to his own. I said, son, for all I've told you, when you get right down to the reason for the world, who am I? There are secrets that we still have left to find. There have been mysteries from the beginning of time. There are answers we're not wise enough to see. He said, you looking for a clue? I love you free. The batter swings and the summer flies as I look into my angel's eyes. A song plays on while the moon is hiding over me. Something comes over me. I guess we're big and I guess we're small. If you think about it, man, you know we got it all, 'cause we're all we got on this bouncing ball, and I love you free, I love you free. Here's a riddle for you, find the answer, there's a reason for the world you and I. Itachi couldn't resist. That was good, he said, mimicking the blonde's first words to him. The kid's reaction, however, was not what he was expecting. Naruto whirled around, nearly falling off the piano bench and only managing to catch himself at the last moment. His eyes were huge in his face, and his face had paled to a deadly degree. Itachi found himself taking a few steps forward and holding his hands up reassuringly before he could catch himself. Hey, he said, in a voice so unlike himself that a voice in the back of his head absently wondered if he'd been taken over by a stranger. I'm not going to hurt you. Naruto eyed him distrustfully for a second before relaxing. Itachi let out a silent sigh and carefully pulled himself back behind his mask of stoicism. Naruto Uzumaki was dangerous. He had a unique gift of pulling Itachi so off guard that he disregarded his need for the Uchiha mask. What are you doing here, Itachi? Naruto asked. Itachi eyed the blonde's back for a moment, almost taken aback at how defeated Naruto sounded. Even after meeting him only twice, Itachi had found that he'd expected a very bright and open individual. But this boy was broken. Itachi said, pulling up a chair. He sank into it primly, back straight against the hard metal. Naruto glanced at him, and Itachi was surprised at the relief he felt seeing a mischievous spark in those blue eyes. He barely knew the boy, and yet the rise in his spirit caused Itachi an enormous relief that was, shockingly, followed by pride that he'd been the one to lift the blonde's spirits. Itachi quickly stifled the emotions, annoyed with himself. He didn't even know the blonde. Typical Uchiha answer, Naruto told him straightforwardly, and Itachi wasn't sure whether he was surprised or amused that the blonde spoke to him like that. Your little brother is the exact same way. HN this, and HN that. Yes, definitely amused. I think Mr. Uchiha is the only one of you that actually talks, and that's probably because he's a teacher. Itachi smirked and said, deliberately this time, HN. Naruto let out a bright, clear laugh and Itachi watched the cheerfulness dance across his face. Yes, there was definitely beauty in that face. Whether Naruto could see it or not, that was another question. But really, Itachi, you don't seem like the type to seek others out, Naruto said cheerfully. What are you doing here? Itachi considered saying HN again, just to avoid this question. He didn't know what he was doing there, to be honest. A part of him had just wanted to see the blonde. But his Uchiha pride wouldn't let him admit it. I heard your music, he murmured, willing to grasp any excuse he could. Naruto nodded. I do have a tendency to play pretty loud, he said sheepishly. You aren't the first person that snuck up on me like that. Itachi smirked. Isn't that what you wanted me to do, Naruto-kun? Play passionately? Naruto blushed a little. I didn't mean for it to come out so snootily, he told Itachi frankly, but yeah, that is the basics of it. And hey, are you Japanese? He asked, just registering the honorific Itachi had called him by. Itachi raised an eyebrow. Yes, he confirmed. My entire family is. Or what's left of it, he added, almost bitterly, to himself. Wow, Naruto said, a smile sliding across his face. I am too. Well, I mean, not a lot, but a quarter Japanese. I grew up there, actually. In Hokkaido, to be more exact. Itachi was intrigued. Naruto spoke English so well, he hadn't even imagined he was from another country. For how long? He asked softly. Naruto stiffened slightly, and Itachi filed that reaction away. 8 years, he said lightly. Then I had to move. I came to America a year after that, though. You lived with your parents? Itachi asked, unsure why he was doing so. The blonde drew him in. He wanted to know more. It was a rare feeling, and Itachi wasn't sure if he should stifle it or revel in it. My mother, Naruto said quietly. I never knew my father. He eyed Itachi for a moment before whirling around, placing his hands on the keys. How about another song, HM? Itachi recognized a diversionary tactic when he saw one, but he let it slide. Obviously, it wasn't something the blonde wanted to talk about, and Itachi wasn't one to pry. He frowned when the opening notes hit his ears. He felt like he'd heard this music before. As soon as you're born, they make you feel small by giving you no time instead of it all till the pain is so big you feel nothing at all. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. They hurt you at home, and they hit you at school. They hate you if you're clever, and they despise a fool till you're so fucking crazy you can't follow their rules. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. Itachi was once again entranced by the vision that was Naruto playing music. He knew that even with his years of training, he wouldn't be able to play like that. That wasn't something that was learned, it was something that you were either gifted with or you weren't. Itachi could maybe mimic the effect, but he would never be as good at playing with that sort of passion as Naruto was. In a way, this made Itachi happy. Finally, there was something he wasn't good at without trying. Finally, there was something he had to work for. And he had Naruto to thank for showing him that. When they've tortured and scared you for 20-odd years, then they expect you to pick a career when you can't really function. You're so full of fear. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. Keep you doped with religion and sex and TV, and you think you're so clever and classless and free, but you're still fucking peasants. As far as I can see, a working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. There's room at the top, they are telling you still, but first you must learn how to smile as you kill if you want to be like the folks on the hill. A working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to be. If you want to be a hero, well, just follow me. If you want to be a hero, well, just follow me. The lyrics were hard and angry, and Itachi was surprised that Naruto was able to handle them so well. The blonde seemed happy and cheerful, and this seemed like the kind of song that Naruto would normally stumble over when he attempted to fit in the emotions. It was one of my mother's favorite songs, Naruto spoke up abruptly, and Itachi noticed that his hands, once still, had moved to the edge of the piano and gripped it tightly enough to make his knuckles turn white. A faint frown made its way between Itachi's brow, and he looked Naruto over for any more signs of anxiety. The blonde was trembling slightly, and his shoulders were stiff under the pristine dark jacket of the school's uniform. She played it for me once, and I told that I didn't like it, that it was too sad. Naruto laughed, a little bitterly. Now I just wish I could hear it from her again. Itachi raised an eyebrow. So his mother has died, he thought. Naruto Uzumaki just kept getting more and more interesting. Kyubi never figured that being a wanted man would be so much work. He sighed as he snuck through darkened alleys, avoiding blaring sirens that decided to come his way all the while. It was a good thing that Naruto was such a wonderful toy, otherwise he would never had bothered. Kyubi didn't like being forced into corners. He sidled through another alley, and then made his way down a darkened street, keeping a sharp eye out for approaching cars. He was relieved when he finally made it to his destination, a darkened house at the edge of the road that looked abandoned. Kyubi knew from experience that it wasn't. He carefully made his way to the front door and knocked twice, before rapping in 3 rapid movements. There was a heavy stillness behind the door before the sound of light footsteps reached Kyubi's ears. He frowned. He didn't recognize those footsteps. The door opened to reveal a young man with prematurely silver hair and thick, round glasses hanging off the tip of his nose. Kyubi sneered as he thought, Orochimaru must have gotten himself a new toy. "Who are you, and what do you want?" the man said, eyes stoic. Kyubi was almost impressed. Not many could remain so calm after seeing his face. "I'm here to see Orochimaru," he said gruffly. "Tell him it's Kyubi, and he'll see me. Better make it fast though. I find I'm mightily impatient." He added a maniacal grin for good measure that grew more genuine when the young man flinched. "I will go talk to Orochimaru-sama," he said quietly, before closing the door. Kyubi eyed the wood thoughtfully. "So he got the brat to call him Lord already, huh? Maybe I can get my brat to do that." Distracted as he was with thoughts of Naruto calling out Kyubi-sama, he didn't notice, at first, when the door swung open. Only the voice of his old friend drew him from his thoughts. "Kyubi, my dear friend," Orochimaru purred out, eyes sweeping over Kyubi's form. The escapee snorted to himself. Orochimaru fucked anything 20 years younger than him, and had always had a particular eye for Kyubi. "Orochimaru," he said, "I have a deal for you." Orochimaru allowed him to step inside, and Kyubi made his way to a very familiar living room, the snake-like man following in his footsteps. "Oh?" he said, sounding genuinely interested. "And what deal is this?" Kyubi smirked. "It has to do with a certain blonde toy of mine," he said, batting his eyelashes coyly. Orochimaru raised a thin black eyebrow. "Uzumaki? The brat that turned you in? What does this have to do with him?" "He's mine," Kyubi snarled possessively. "He doesn't belong with your freak of a brother. He doesn't belong in that school. He exists only to please me. I want him back." Orochimaru chuckled. "You're still as obsessed with him as you were a year and a half ago," he told the redhead. "But I will indulge your taste for him. What exactly did you have in mind?" Kyubi's eyes gleamed. "I already have plans of my own on how to bring him back to me," he told Orochimaru. "I just want you to keep an eye on him at that school. Make sure that he doesn't join anything public. Make sure he still remembers everything. I wouldn't want him to be forgetting our little lessons, after all." Kyubi smiled manically. "Make sure that he's as frightened as he was when I left him, and I'll give you anything you want." Orochimaru paused, a hungry look entering his eyes. "Anything?" Kyubi smirked. "Anything." Naruto had never thought that he was the type to avoid. Usually he preferred confrontation. But when it came to revealing his past to a surprisingly persistent Hyuga, Naruto thought that avoidance was the key to survival. After their little talk, Neji had asked about Naruto's life. Naruto had refused to talk about it, and Neji had been offended. After all, he'd offered up the parts of his soul he'd rather no one see, and now Naruto was holding out on him? Naruto sighed as he remembered the way Neji had stormed out of the house and then stalked for the last 2 days, determined to hear Naruto's story. He liked Neji, and he sympathized with his plight about his family. But Naruto didn't reveal himself that easily. He always fit much easier in the skin of the listener, the one who solved the problems instead of revealing their own. He didn't know how to bare his soul like that to a person unless he trusted them, like he did with Jiraiya. And even then, it had taken months for the older man to wrangle the story from him. Naruto sighed, and stared down at his feet. Eventually, he knew, Neji would find him and they'd talk it out. Whether he would reveal something about his past or not, Naruto wasn't sure. Neji could, perhaps, sympathize, but Naruto was pretty sure that he wasn't the type to offer that sympathy. Maybe it was side effect of growing up with his strict family, but Neji didn't seem all that emotional. Being so drawn into his thoughts, Naruto failed to notice the person standing in front of him until he barreled into a warm body, sending both of them sprawling on the ground. "Ow," he mumbled, before realizing that he'd fallen on someone. "Oh geez, are you okay?" he said, scrambling off the person below him. He blinked when he saw exactly who he'd fallen on. The boy pulled himself off the ground stoically, bright red hair falling into his kohl-lined lime-green eyes. His features were sharp and pale, and his face was without emotion. Naruto caught a bright red tattoo on his forehead, which he thought was some sort of kanji character, but he couldn't make out what it was thanks to the boy's messy bangs. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked, his hand rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. Geez, I'm so sorry. I mean, usually I'm looking where I'm going, but obviously this time I wasn't, and then I ran into you, and I'm really, really sorry. He trailed off nervously, trying to stop himself from babbling. Something about this boy had him on edge. He caught sight of several papers scattered on the ground out of the corner of his eye, and quickly bent to pick them up. My name's Naruto, he explained as he scooped the papers into his arms. I just got here a week or two ago. What's your name? Not that you have to answer anything, but it'd be nice to know so I could apologize properly. He finally caught sight of what was on the papers that he was picking up, and his eyes widened. He held up the first sheet and stared down at it, awestruck. A giant fox stood starkly in the middle of the sheet, 9 tails swirling around it like a heavy cloak. Some of these tails were being slammed into the ground below the fox, creating heavy craters. The fox was colored a deep, burning red, and its eyes were a shade lighter, veering from red to an almost orange tint. The background differed from the dusty color of the uncracked ground to the deep blue where water pooled up from the craters. The sky above the fox's head was a deep, stark black. Wow, Naruto said, staring at the picture. You are an amazing artist. He looked up to see the boy watching him intensely and swallowed. I mean, this is awesome. Man, you must be at the top of your class or something. Gaara, the boy spoke for the first time. Naruto looked at him in confusion. My name, he added to clarify. It is Gaara. And thank you? He carefully took the drawings from Naruto and walked away without another word. Before he could disappear down the hall, Naruto shouted, See you around, Gaara. Whether the boy heard him or not was hard to say, but Naruto decided it didn't matter much. He shook his head and turned on his heel to continue his route. There were so many confusing and interesting people at Konoha. Naruto sighed and walked down the hall, unaware of the probing golden eyes trained on his turn back. Minneapolis, Minnesota, October 10, 2007. Tsunade could feel a headache coming on. Cellos, you need to be louder, she barked out. Violas, softer, more legato. And for God's sake, keep it down back there, trumpets. Then, suddenly her face softened. But the violins were right on task, she praised, bringing groans from the other instrument groups. Tsunade sent them a glare. Itachi, nice work keeping them in line. They were practicing some of their old pieces, warming up to get ready to rehearse the pieces they'd chosen for the huge winter concert that Konoha held every year. The full orchestra would play 6 pieces, and there would be 3 soloists to play between 2 pieces. The art students would be holding a gallery of the art they'd worked on in the last half year, and the literature students would recite a work that they'd written, whether it was a short story, a poem, or a song. It was a major event, and usually the orchestra would start preparing for it immediately into the new school year. But even though they were considered one of the best student orchestras in the country, Konoha's musical group still had trouble getting things right at times. Like now, for instance. For God's sake! Tsunade cried almost immediately after they'd started playing again. Trumpets! What part of keep it down don't you understand? The 3 trumpet students shared commiserating glances. Even though she was considered the best conductor in her field, Tsunade tended to have an explosive temper when things didn't work out the way she wanted them to. She was also very hard on her students, though some of them admitted, reluctantly, that it was probably the reason they were so good. Excuse me? Tsunade's rant was interrupted, much to the relief of the trumpet players, at the sound of a voice from the doorway. Everyone in the orchestra turned to see a blonde standing there, looking as awkward as possible. The boy blushed under the sudden scrutiny. What? Tsunade barked. The blonde held up a piece of paper. Jiraiya wanted me to give this to you, he said, walking up to Tsunade, and surprising those that knew of Mr. Sanin. After all, what kind of student called a teacher by his first name? Tsunade looked vaguely surprised as well. What does that pervert want now? She murmured to herself, taking the note from the blonde. And just who are you? Naruto Uzumaki, the blonde said, grinning. You're Jiraiya's sister, right? It's nice to finally meet you. Tsunade eyed Naruto, ignoring the curious look of her students. So you're the perv's charge, huh? Somehow, I thought you'd be taller. Naruto frowned. Don't make fun of my height, Ba-chan, he said, sticking out his tongue childishly. The students around him gasped at his daring. Tsunade wasn't the sort of person you talked back to. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. Ba-chan? She hissed dangerously, as if sensing the insult hidden in the words. Naruto, suddenly realizing his folly, backed away from the angry woman. It means a wonderful, beautiful woman? He said feebly. Tsunade eyed him suspiciously. That better be what it means, brat, she muttered, opening up the note. She scanned it for a few minutes and then sighed in exasperation. He sent you all this way just to ask if I could come for dinner? She asked Naruto. Naruto grinned, a little sheepishly. Well, I was kinda being a little annoying, so it may have been more to get rid of me, he said cheerfully. He opened his mouth to speak and then hesitated for a moment. Do you mind if I sit in the back and watch you guys? I don't want to get on Erosenen's nerves more than I have to. Tsunade eyed him for a moment. Sure, kid. Just be quiet and don't disturb us. Naruto hesitantly ambled to the back of the room, sending a smile where Shikamaru stood alone in the percussion section, and over to Itachi in the violins. Sasuke, who sat behind his brother, he didn't acknowledge. The memory of the last time they'd spoken stood too clearly in his mind. Seeing no chair, Naruto made himself comfortable on the floor, watching as Tsunade directed. The orchestra worked very well together, he noted, even if their dynamics were a little off sometimes. Tsunade was good at getting them back in line, and making them shape up. Naruto propped his chin on his knees, watching intently. As he listened quietly to their practice, Naruto wondered if this was something he could do after all. Maybe he should try. Because if he wallowed all the time, and stayed in the shadows, then that was just as good as letting Kyuubi win, wasn't it? And Naruto was nothing if not competitive. He didn't want to let Kyuubi have a hold of him. He didn't want to act like this anymore. Naruto smiled, the music washing over his ears. Maybe he should try it. The mail was waiting on the table when Naruto walked in, and he hurriedly picked it up, flipping through it. He paused as he came to the second to last letter in the stack, and paled. It was the same as the first letter he'd received. Kyuubi had written to him again. Naruto sank into the nearest chair shakily, eyes fixed on the crisp envelope, only marred by his name printed on the front. He didn't want to open it, but he did at the same time. He knew that nothing in there could be good, that it would only bring back more bad memories, but he was intensely curious about the contents as well. Naruto sighed, and with a shaking hand flipped the letter around and tore it open. A thick sheet of paper fell out. He opened it cautiously, and his face paled even further as he took in the contents. In front of him was a picture of himself. It was exquisitely drawn, with fine attention to detail, but what disturbed Naruto so much was that it was a picture of him in his room. At Jiraiya's. A place which Kyuubi had never seen. He scanned the drawing frantically, and paused when he saw the small words edging the left corner. The drawing fell from his hand, but Naruto never bothered to pick it up. He stared at the wall across from him with wide, frightened eyes, and then hurried out of the kitchen, leaving the drawing behind. He was out of the door in seconds, never looking back, only running forward. In the kitchen, the drawing sat peacefully. And in its left corner there were the words, "I'm watching you, Naruto." Naruto wasn't sure how long he ran, but by the time he stopped his legs were burning and he had a painful stitch in his side. He slowed, gasping, and sat at the first bench he could see. Slowly, he started to come back to himself as his breathing evened and the pain in his legs lessened. Kyuubi was watching him, somehow. He was watching him with something so reliable that he could watch for the long hours it took to make a portrait of that detail. And Naruto had no bloody idea how he was doing it. Naruto curled into himself on the park bench and placed his head on his knees, taking deep breaths. His entire body was trembling, but this was a much more public place than Mendota had been, and he didn't want anyone to see his breakdown. He should have just stayed in the house, should have just told Jiraiya so that they could inform the police, but Naruto couldn't stay there. This new house, it was something of a haven for him. And to know that Kyuubi breached that haven, that he'd been watching him, it was too much to take at the moment. Uzumaki? Naruto looked up to see the stoic boy he met only the day before staring down at him, green eyes impassive. He gave a weak smile, wishing the other boy would just go away so he could have his mini breakdown in peace. As if sensing this, Gaara's eyes narrowed and he sat down by Naruto on the bench. Naruto noticed that he had a book bag slung over his shoulder, with several pads of paper and pencils sticking out of it. Gaara, he said, turning his face into his knees so that it was muffled. I'd like to get to know you. But right now, I'd really appreciate it if you left me alone. No, Gaara told him bluntly. Naruto looked over at him, shocked. You are sad, Gaara told him, as if that explained everything. Naruto blinked. Why does it matter to you? He asked, genuinely interested. Gaara shifted, almost uncomfortable. Your eyes, he muttered. They are the same as mine. Naruto started and then stared. My eyes, he thought, entirely puzzled. He turned to look at Gaara, who was staring straight ahead. Gaara? He prodded uncertainly. What do you mean? Gaara stayed silent for a long moment, completely motionless on the bench. Naruto noticed his hands clenching on his thighs, and he seemed tenser than a stiff board. Finally he gave a long sigh and relaxed into the wood behind him. You told me my drawings were amazing, correct? Naruto nodded, confused as to where this was going. Well, you were not the only one to think so. But some weren't so happy with it. Naruto's heart leapt into his throat. I was orphaned when I was 5, Gaara told him blankly. I had an older sister and brother. I do not know where they are now. But I was adopted by a strange man when I was 7, he was named Shikaku. Naruto froze. He recognized that name. He'd heard it only once or twice, when Kyuubi was on the phone and Naruto had listened in without his guardian's knowledge. He'd been talking to a person called Shikaku. Could the name be a coincidence? Or was meeting Gaara the coincidence? He did not like my drawings, but he needed me to help him. He was lazy, very lazy. He did not like to do things when he did not have to. He made me do them instead. I had a very bad childhood. He paused and then looked over at Naruto for the first time during this entire monologue. The depth to your eyes is similar to mine. You are like me. Naruto was shivering now, and he could feel the familiar prickling of tears gathering behind his eyes. He started and then cleared his throat. Gaara had told him, so it was only fair that he should reciprocate. I have a talent for music, he said huskily. My guardian was fascinated by it, but he was repulsed by it too. I also had a bad childhood. He gave a rasping laugh. My guardian was put in jail when I told a neighbor. And now he's out again. Gaara showed no reaction. And he's stalking me. He sent me a letter, and how the fuck did he get my address? And then he sent a drawing. It was of me in my new room, and he's never seen it, and I think he's watching my house and oh my god I'm so fucking scared. Naruto was breathing quickly now, on the edge of hyperventilating. Gaara looked faintly alarmed and awkwardly rubbed Naruto on the back, hoping it would cure this sudden bout of panic. It did barely. Naruto started to breathe in more deeply, and relaxed into Gaara's hand. Sorry, he muttered, his voice thick in his throat. He gave a watery laugh. I thought that it was over, and then he just pops up out of nowhere. God, am I ever going to be rid of him? He rubbed at his face wearily. Gaara felt sympathetic. The redhead spoke up again, determined to finish his story. By the time I was 14, I was tired of the life I had been living. When Shikaku was going to beat me, I beat him up instead. Gaara hesitated. He had no idea how Naruto would react to this little piece of knowledge. I killed him. Naruto's eyes snapped up to meet Gaara's, full of shock. What? Gaara's eyes were as stoic as ever, but there was a glint of pain in them, if one knew where to look. He had been ranting about my utter uselessness, and how he would have been better off adopting my sister. At least she would have given me some entertainment, I believe he said. Naruto didn't have to ask what sort of entertainment. He made me angry, and I did not stop when I knew I should. But I am not in jail because the judge ruled it a justified homicide when I told him of the abuse. I was made a ward of the state, and sent to Konoha for punishment for killing another man. I have been here for almost 3 years now. Gaara's voice had never wavered during his speech. Gaara had turned away when he'd confessed to Naruto, and now he looked back at the blonde. He was surprised to see that his eyes were full of tears. Uzumaki? He questioned softly, confused by the sadness etched into Naruto's face. I am so sorry for you, Naruto said, burrowing into Gaara's side. He either didn't notice or ignored the redhead's sudden stiffening. Why you lose your parents, and get separated from your siblings, and have to deal with abuse, and then you have the weight of killing a person on top of all of that. How can you stand in the morning, Gaara, with all that weight on your shoulders? Gaara didn't answer, too astonished that Naruto wasn't running away from him in terror. At Konoha, it was well known that Gaara was a murderer. He was hated and avoided because of it. Naruto was the first person to accept and sympathize with him, instead of condemning him. Wonderingly, Gaara rested a hand on the blonde's shoulder. Why aren't you running? He murmured, half to himself. Naruto looked up at him with a tear-stained face, his eyes bright. How can I condemn you for doing what I wished to do so many times? He asked simply. Gaara stared down at him, and Naruto gave him a watery smile. I knew I could never kill Kyuubi, no matter what he did to me. But sometimes I wished I could. Sometimes I wished I had the ruthlessness, the hate that I'd need to kill him, because sometimes the only thing that got me through the day was the thought of his death. Naruto shook his head. Maybe other, more normal people can't understand you, Gaara, but I can. I would never condemn you for what you did. Never. Gaara hadn't cried since he was 4 years old, but at that moment he felt the burning sensation of tears at the back of his eyes. Carefully, he gathered Naruto closer to him, feeling both awkward and elated. Here was someone who could understand. This was a person who accepted him. Moments passed in silence, and while the pair on the bench garnered several confused, disgusted, and amused looks, they never once separated. Finally, Naruto let loose a heavy sigh. I feel a little silly now, Naruto said, with a laugh. And a little corny too. But I meant what I said, Gaara. You can always come to me for understanding. Gaara simply nodded and let Naruto scoot away from him, feeling oddly cold. Suddenly, Naruto's face lit up, and the cold was gone. Wait here. Naruto scurried back to the nearby parking lot, and came back with a plain-looking guitar gripped tightly in one hand. As he made his way back to the bench, he glanced warily at an abandoned walkway around the lake. It was a typical Minnesotan fall day, cold and windy, with thick clouds hovering overhead, ready to dump water on them at any moment. Rarely anyone walked the lakes on days like this, but Naruto wanted to be sure. He may have been moving past his phobia of performing, but he wasn't moving that fast. He sat back down next to Gaara, guitar propped up on his upraised knee. He turned to see the redhead giving him a faintly confused look and explained, I saw one of your drawings, so I should play something for you, HM? It's fair trade, after all. Gaara saw the sense in that, and nodded, watching as Naruto quickly tuned the guitar. Naruto cleared his throat and took one last look at the walkway before he started to strum lightly on the guitar strings. He cleared his throat and then sang. I just want to run, just want to hide away, close my eyes to your gaze, just want to leave, don't want to hear them say you're no good at this. When the world swirls with naysayers, broken wings and torn pages, the road ahead drowning in my tears. Break me open, tear me down into pieces, broken crumbs on the ground you can mold and shape, main your image, breathe your life, you know I need it, scars make us stronger for life. Losing myself, gaining it back again, forging strength from weakness, all that I am, all that I'm meant to be, melting in your hand. Let the world swirl with naysayers, pickled hearts and sour faces, what is real is what I cannot see. Break me open, tear me down into pieces, broken crumbs on the ground you can mold and shape, main your image, breathe your life, you know I need it, scars make us stronger for life. Cut away all within me that won't bear fruit, cut away all within me. Break me open, tear me down into pieces, broken crumbs on the ground you can mold and shape, main your image, breathe your life, you know I need it, scars make us stronger for life. Scars make us stronger for life. Naruto's voice was raspier than usual, probably from crying and the emotion that he felt playing this song. When he looked up from the guitar, he found Gaara staring at him thoughtfully. We are more alike than I thought, Gaara told him. You are as talented as I am, only in music. Naruto gave a weak smile. You're so modest, Jie-chan. Gaara's eyes narrowed. Jie-chan? Naruto grinned again, this time more genuinely. What? You don't do short, cute nicknames, Jie-chan? Gaara glared at the obnoxious blonde, but Naruto never gave in. Finally the redhead sighed. I will allow it only because I doubt you will stop using it, he muttered. Ah, Jie-chan, you're so thoughtful. Naruto cooed with a laugh, giving Gaara a half-armed hug. Gaara was somewhat amazed that the blonde was already so happy, and that he could be so cheerful around him, an antisocial, apathetic, ex-murderer. He eyed the small blonde. Maybe Naruto was insane. Or maybe he's just too kind for his own good, a voice whispered in the back of his head. Gaara was inclined to agree. Sasuke Uchiha approached the practice door cautiously, hoping that the person he'd come to find would be using it, and not someone else. He smirked faintly when he heard the familiar sounds of music thrumming through the door. It was Naruto, all right. He carefully opened the door and slid inside, pleased that Naruto hadn't noticed him yet. The blonde was intently playing a classical piece, a piece that Sasuke recognized as Beethoven's infamous Moonlight Sonata. Sasuke leaned against the wall and closed his eyes, letting the music wash over him as he waited for Naruto to finish. He had never met anyone quite like Naruto Uzumaki. He'd thought the blonde was a nuisance and a moron when they first met, but hearing him play Sasuke had felt jealous and admiring. He hated for someone to be better in him than anything, no matter if it was something he didn't even play, but he could see Naruto's talent. And Uchihas always admired talent. The finishing notes drew Sasuke out of his thoughts, and he watched as Naruto finished playing and then turned around with a sigh. He smirked broadly when the blonde jumped a few feet in the air when he spotted the Uchiha. Sasuke!" he cried, holding a hand to his heart. "Jesus, you scared the hell out of me. What are you doing here?" Sasuke's eyes narrowed as he remembered the reason he had sought out the blonde to begin with. He stalked forward, ignoring Naruto's startled look, and said bluntly, "I want answers. For example, why don't you play for anyone? Why haven't you joined the orchestra? Why hide your talent?" Sasuke never was one to beat around the bush. Naruto looked angry now. His face was drawn, and his eyes had narrowed to two slits of blue. "Listen, Uchiha," Sasuke started, "I don't care about your curious nature. Perhaps if you had actually wanted to get to know me, maybe I would have indulged you. But you just want to know, You don't care about my past or my reasons. Why I've chosen to remain hidden is my business, and until you stop interrogating me and start being a friend, it will remain my business. Sasuke was stunned. Rarely did anyone talk to him like that. Sometimes Itachi or Madara did, when they were extremely angry, but never anyone outside of his immediate family. They were all too in awe of him to snap back at him like Naruto had. Sasuke's shoulders stiffened, his Uchiha pride coming into play. He wouldn't admit that he might be the tiniest bit in the wrong. Fine, he hissed and was pleased to see Naruto's annoyed and exasperated face before he stalked out of the room. He'd just have to find his answers another way. Tsunade rung Jiraiya's doorbell repeatedly, annoyed with the delay. She'd never been a patient woman, and being made to wait 10 minutes just for her brother to answer the door was wearing thin whatever patience she had left. She gritted her teeth and was about to ring again when the door opened, revealing a disheveled Jiraiya. Sorry, he said, grinning at his sister. I was asleep. Tsunade snorted as she followed him into the house. Stay up late reading your perverted novels? She asked dryly. Jiraiya gave her a wounded look. I'll have you know, Gamabunta is one of the best authors there is. His son Kichi comes close, but sometimes greatness can't be passed on. Jiraiya sighed mournfully and then turned to glare at Tsunade. Besides, it isn't porn. It's a wonderful, plot-filled book with a little bit extra on the side. He gave a disdainful sniff, channeling their older brother for a minute. Tsunade shuddered at the resemblance. Stop it, you remind me of Orochimaru, she said, and Jiraiya instantly dropped the arrogant facade with a grin. So what brings my lovely sister here today? He asked cheerfully. Tsunade gave him a look. You're the one that invited me for dinner, moron, she said, slipping into the living room with Jiraiya at her heels. Oh, that's right, you met Naruto. What do you think of him? Tsunade sat down primly. He's a brat, but a good brat, she told her older brother. I like him well enough. Jiraiya grinned. Good. Tsunade's face took on a contemplative look that Jiraiya had learned long ago to fear. Do you think he might want to join the orchestra? He seemed very fascinated, and from what you've told me. No! Jiraiya cried out, startling Tsunade with his vehemence. His glare softened at the look on her face. No. Don't ask him, Tsunade, he said more quietly this time. Tsunade glared. Why not? Jiraiya sighed heavily. He's had a rough childhood, Tsunade, and he doesn't like performing for an audience anymore. You wouldn't believe the work it takes him to play for me voluntarily, and he trusts me. Tsunade sank back into her seat, subdued for the moment. Oh, she said, and was quiet for a moment. Then she sat forward with a determined look on her face. I'm still going to ask him. She raised a hand when she saw Jiraiya was going to protest. If he says no, I'll respect his wishes. But I will ask him. Jiraiya sighed. He knew there was nothing he could do to stop her. Oh, very well. But if he says no, Tsunade, you'll leave him alone. He gave her a glare for good measure. I promise. Minato stared at the screen in front of him, wondering if he really wanted to do this. He hadn't tried to find anything about Kushina in years. He'd given up after they'd been apart for 5 years, discouraged and hurt from her absence. But with the arrival of the boy he was sure was her son, the need to know what had happened to her rose up again. He needed to know if she was dead, if she really was the mother to Naruto Uzumaki, to make sure that this wasn't all an odd coincidence. He sighed and wrote in her name in Google. It wasn't the best place to start, but it was a start. Minato had never found anything in the search engines before. Kushina had stayed out of the limelight after she'd left Minato. Thus, he was surprised when an article popped up first thing. It had Kushina's name highlighted in it, so he quickly clicked on it. It was a newspaper article dated November 1, 1997. It read, Famous singer Kushina Uzumaki dies in car accident. Kushina Uzumaki was once a world-renowned rock singer, who was loved by many. It was a mystery to the world when she withdrew from the stage during 1990, never again to return for her now 8-year break. She lived quietly in Hokkaido, Japan during that time, raising her only son, Naruto Uzumaki. Minato's heart clenched. During an early morning walk, Kushina was hit by a car whose driver hadn't seen her until the last minute, blinded by the snow that had been swirling around that morning. He hit her dead on at 65 miles per hour. She was dead by the time the ambulance arrived. Kushina Uzumaki leaves behind a son, who has been sent to one of Japan's orphanages. She will be sorely missed by family and fans alike. Minato was breathing heavily by the time the small article ended, and he shoved himself away from the computer as soon as he read the last word. He paced in the small space of his study, feeling the walls closing in on him. Kushina was dead. Kushina was dead. Kushina was dead. Kushina was dead. The words repeated over and over in his head, and he couldn't help the lump building in his throat. He hadn't seen the woman he loved in over 15 years, but the news of her death hit him hard, like a punch to the stomach. Minato threw himself back into his computer chair, easing his head into his hands. He breathed in and out deeply until he felt the rising hysteria die down. He looked back up at the computer screen and felt tears prickle along his vision. He hastily rubbed at his eyes. The only thing he couldn't figure out was who Naruto Uzumaki's father was. Obviously Kushina had to have found someone quite quickly after she'd left Minato. Naruto was 16 or 17, now, the same amount of years that had passed since Minato had last seen Kushina. Something nagged at the back of his mind, a memory or a thought, but Minato couldn't seem to figure out what it was. He sighed, staring back at the damned article on his screen. There was a mystery here, and one he was determined to find out. Minneapolis, Minnesota, October 10, 2007. Naruto knew he was in trouble when he walked into the house to see Jiraiya sitting at the couch, staring at him. Jiraiya never stared. When he realized Naruto was home, he usually smothered him with questions and comments about his day. Naruto frowned, confused by Jiraiya's seriousness. What could have? Naruto's eyes widened. He'd left the picture on the kitchen table. And now it was sitting in front of Jiraiya on the living room table. Oops. Naruto, Jiraiya said. Where exactly have you been? Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. Well, you see, Erosen and I kinda ran away and then went to Thalakian Talcud to Afren. Jiraiya rolled his eyes. What was that? I kinda ran away and then went to the lake and talked to a friend, Naruto said lowly. I just needed to get away from here. From that, he nodded to the picture on the living room table. Jiraiya rubbed his face. Jesus, kid, at least leave a note or something, he grumbled. Tsunade freaked out when she saw that thing, he said, gesturing to the picture with a look of disgust on his face. Naruto perked up. Bachan's here? Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. Bachan? He knew Naruto too well to believe that it was a flattering nickname. Naruto blushed. It means granny or old woman, whatever one you want to choose, he muttered, looking over his shoulder. Jiraiya guffawed. Only you would have the balls to call Tsunade that brat, he said. Call Tsunade what exactly? Both males swallowed and turned to see Tsunade standing in the kitchen doorway, spatula in hand and staring at them in a way that sent shivers down their spine. Wonderful, beautiful woman? Naruto answered feebly. Tsunade raised an eyebrow, but didn't say anything more about it, to both Jiraiya and Naruto's relief. And where exactly were you, young man? Tsunade suddenly demanded, pointing at Naruto with her spatula. Naruto eyed it warily. I went to the lake and talked with a friend, he said. When Tsunade looked unconvinced, he added, his name is Gaara. What? Tsunade cried. You talked to that boy? What were you thinking? Naruto glared at her. I was thinking that we had quite a bit in common, and that he's a nice guy, Bachan. You didn't even know me before today, so you don't get the right to lecture me, and I can be friends with whoever I like. He stormed upstairs. Jiraiya whistled at the look at Tsunade's face. The kid's got a point, Tsunade, he told her. Besides, that kid isn't that bad. I had him in my lit class last year, and he did all right. He's a little quiet, but who wouldn't be, with his history? Tsunade shook her head. I know, I overreacted. But Naruto's very much like. She trailed off, and Jiraiya nodded. He knew who she meant. It makes me want to protect him, she explained. Jiraiya sighed. Go up and explain it to him. And get him downstairs so we can eat dinner, he grumbled as he made his way into the kitchen. Tsunade smiled at his back and then hurried up the stairs. Music was thrumming through the door as she approached, and Tsunade slowed, listening in through the door. They painted up your secrets with the lies they told to you, and the least they ever gave you was the most you ever knew. And I wonder where these dreams go when the world gets in your way. What's the point in all this screaming? No one's listening anyway. Your voice is small and fading, and you hide in here alone, and your mother loves your father 'cause she's got nowhere to go. And she wonders where these dreams go 'cause the world got in her way. What's the point in ever trying? Nothing's changing anyway. They press their lips against you and you love the lies they say, and I tried so hard to reach you, but you're falling anyway. And you know I see right through you 'cause the world gets in your way. What's the point in all the screaming? You're not listening anyway. Tsunade thought as the final chords played out. Nice voice and nice guitar playing. But can he do that with a piano? She knocked on the door. Naruto? Can I come in? There was silence for a moment before the blonde said, "Sure." Tsunade pushed open the door to see Naruto bending over, packing away his guitar. When he turned to face her, his eyes were flat. Tsunade sighed. She'd obviously angered him with her paranoia over his friend, Gaara Sabaku. She'd never met the kid, but she knew that he'd killed his guardian. That the judge ruled it as justifiable homicide, and that Gaara had spent a year under the watch of a parole officer before being let off free, didn't ease her. And it didn't help that Naruto acted so much like her dead lover, Dan. He even looked like him too, especially around the eyes. Tsunade kept feeling an irrational protectiveness of the boy she'd only just met. "Look, I'm sorry about what I said about Gaara. But I just think that you should be careful." She sat on the edge of his bed. Naruto stiffened. "Gaara's already told me about his past," he told her sharply. "I accept him. The unlike some people I could mention went unheard. I trust him as well. I appreciate that you're looking out for me, but Gaara isn't going to harm me." Tsunade sighed. "I know. I'm sorry for this, but it's just." Tsunade shook her head. She didn't want to get into the story of her past. "Never mind. Listen, Jiraiya wants to have a birthday dinner for you, and the food's all ready, so we should go down and eat." Naruto's tense posture dissipated and his eyes lit up. "A birthday dinner?" he asked excitedly. "Really, Bachan?" "One of these days, brat, you're going to tell me what that word really means," Tsunade muttered, but at the look on Naruto's face, her eyes softened. "Yes, brat, really." The food had been devoured, mostly by Naruto, and the cake eaten to the last crumbs, Naruto again, and now the threesome had settled into the living room to talk before Tsunade headed home. It was here that Tsunade decided to propose her idea. "Naruto," she said, leaning forward in her seat, "I have a proposition for you." Naruto looked up at her with lazy eyes. What do you want, Bachan?" A vein throbbed in Tsunade's temple, but she ignored the disrespect. She would look up that nickname later, and then beat the kid up when she confirmed that it was an insult, and continued, "Jiraiya has told me that you have a love for music, and that you're very good at it." Naruto stiffened and sent a glance Jiraiya's way. Her brother shifted uneasily under the blonde's stare, and then shrugged his shoulders. "She's my sister, Naruto," he said, as an explanation. "And if anything were to happen to me, she'd be the one you'd go to. She needed to know about you." Naruto huffed and turned back to Tsunade. "I wanted to ask," she said, "if you would consider joining the Konoha orchestra." Naruto blinked. "What?" he asked, almost whispering. Then, louder, he said, "No. If you know anything about my past, you have to understand why." "Naruto, it's been a year," Tsunade told him plainly. "I'm telling you that it takes a specific amount of time to recover from what you've been through, but I am telling you that you need to start moving past this." Naruto was silent for a moment, his hands bunching into fists. "I know," he said finally. "I know I have to start playing for people again, that I can't let him win. In fact, I was contemplating today joining your orchestra." He gave a short, bitter laugh. "But then the drawing came, and that changed everything." Naruto relaxed into the couch behind him, rubbing his temples with one hand. "I want to put this behind me, Tsunade, but it's going to take longer than just a year. I went through 7 years of hell because of that man. It's not something you just get over easily." But he trailed off, his blue eyes uncertain. "I'll think about it. Give me a few days, and I'll get back to you." Tsunade smiled at him warmly. "That's all I ask for, Naruto." Itachi knew where Naruto would be by now. His only surprise was that there wasn't any music floating out of the door of the practice room as he approached. The faintest line of a frown creased his forehead as he pushed the door open. Naruto had to be upset. That thought, strangely enough, made Itachi frown inwardly. The little blonde was straddling the piano bench, staring blankly at the wall in front of him. One of his hands was resting lightly on the nearby piano keys while the other toyed absently with the bottom of Naruto's white school shirt. "Naruto-kun," Itachi greeted, picking up a chair and seating himself next to the blonde. Naruto turned and smiled at the older boy. "Itachi," he said warmly. Itachi, looking into Naruto's affectionate blue eyes, felt an unfamiliar emotion curl in the pit of his stomach, forcing him to look away. "You're not playing today," Itachi said, emotionless as ever, but there was the slightest hint of a question in the sentence that he knew Naruto would pick up on. The blonde's smile turned into a frown, and he ran a hand absently up the piano, never hitting a key hard enough to make a sound. "Yeah," he admitted. "There are some things I need to think out." Itachi remained silent. He wouldn't push the blonde into telling him, but he had a feeling that Naruto might find the urge to confide in him. Silence filled the air, before suddenly Naruto gave a long sigh and turned to face Itachi once more. I was asked to join the Konoha orchestra, he told Itachi bluntly. The Uchiha's eyebrows raised a hair. Naruto laughed a little. Yeah, imagine that, huh? Tsunade is my guardian's sister, so apparently he told her all about my talent for music. Itachi noted that Naruto didn't sound proud of his talent for music, more like disgusted with himself. But I'm not sure if I can do it, Itachi, the blonde admitted. I mean, I don't like to perform in front of others, especially strangers, and well, performing in an orchestra would be playing in front of too many strangers to count. I want to move past my history, but I don't think I can do it this fast. Naruto shook his head, and Itachi wondered if the blonde was even talking to him anymore. He watched as Naruto's brow creased, an uneasy look overtaking his face as he smoothed his hands up and down the piano over and over again. It seemed his new obsession had a phobia of performing, a strange thing to fear, but not uncommon. Most people dislike to perform in front of others, just not to the degree that Naruto obviously disliked it. He contemplated the boy's problem for several long minutes, wondering what he could do to help. Itachi normally wasn't one to help others unless there was something he could gain out of it. He was a true Uchiha in that way. But something about the little blonde drew him in, and played upon the protectiveness that he'd only felt before for his little brother. Naruto was an enigma, a puzzle waiting to be figured out, and Itachi was fascinated by him. But also, there was something deeper as well. Something that made him want to help the blonde, even if he didn't get anything in return. An idea took fire in Itachi's mind and he said, "Try it out." Naruto looked up at him uncomprehendingly, and Itachi snorted. "Try performing," he said more clearly. Naruto's eyes widened as it dawned on him what Itachi was suggesting. "I don't think I can," he said uncertainly. "I have a friend that owns a music bar," Itachi told him, ignoring the blonde's protests. "He keeps a full staff with musical talents. All you have to do is pick a song they know how to play. He'll let you do it for free." Naruto's hands were shaking, Itachi absently noted, but the blonde's eyes were steady and thoughtful. Finally he smoothed his hands over his dark pants, and shook them out, trying to stop the trembling. "I think I can do that," he murmured. "Where's this bar?" "On Grand Avenue," Itachi said. "It's called Akatsuki. I'll bring you there around 9 o'clock. His tone brooked no arguments. Naruto blinked. "Oh, you don't have to do that," he said, but a gleam in his eye told Itachi that the blonde hoped he would. "I'll pick you up at 7:30, Itachi said firmly. "Just tell me your address." Naruto fumbled in his backpack for paper and a pen, hurriedly pulling out a notebook with a biro. "At 7:30? Why do you need to pick me up an hour and a half earlier?" Itachi eyed Naruto for a long moment. "Because if you want to get into this club," he told the blonde grimly, "I'm going to have to dress you up." Naruto felt a shiver of terror at that sentence. "This is your house?" Naruto asked, overawed at the huge mansion sitting in front of him. His nose pressed against the glass as he tried to get a closer look, craning his neck to get the whole picture in. Itachi's lip twitched. "Eh," he said calmly, slithering out of the door. He waited for a moment, and when Naruto didn't follow him out immediately, he moved over to the passenger's side and opened the door for him, causing the blonde to fall out. He glared up at Itachi from his place on the ground. "You could have warned me, you know," he grumbled, clambering to his feet. Itachi just smirked. "Follow me, Naruto-kun," he said, and turned to go inside his house, taking his key from his jacket pocket. Naruto followed behind him eagerly, looking around the voluminous garden surrounding the front door in curiosity. "Nah, Itachi, you don't strike me as a garden type," he remarked as they went in the front door. "I'm not," Itachi said calmly. "Madara, however, is." Naruto blinked. "You mean Madara Uchiha, my scary music comp teacher gardens for a hobby?" He started to laugh. "Oh, just wait until I tell Kiba." Itachi flashed him a look, but the smirk accompanying it had a tinge of amusement to it. "Come, Naruto-kun, I've already picked out what you're going to wear." Naruto followed him up the stairs. "How did you get an outfit in my size, Itachi? And why do you have to dress me up? I could have worn my own clothes." Itachi paused outside his door and looked over his shoulder at Naruto with a smirk. "This club isn't one for khakis and t-shirts, Naruto-kun. As to how I got something in your size," he moved into the room, "well, school records are good for something." Naruto blinked and had to think for a moment before that statement hit him. "Itachi, you broke into the school files," he screeched. "And what do you mean this club isn't for khakis and t-shirts? I own other stuff than that," he added indignantly. Itachi's amused, "I'm sure you do," Naruto-kun did nothing to soothe his nerves. He stomped into Itachi's room, only to stop dead in the doorway. He blinked as he took it all in. "It's so white," he said lamely, looking at the tidy and bare room. If Itachi hadn't led him here, he wouldn't have guessed the other boy lived here. Itachi looked over at him from where he was rummaging in the closet. Thank you, he said, pulling out some clothes. Hey. Take a shower, put these on, and then come back out here. No wearing any of the clothes you brought with you. Naruto nodded confusedly and accepted the bundle of black, pressing it close to his chest. Bathrooms through there, Itachi added, waving a hand at the only other door in the room. The bathroom was just as large and clean as Itachi's bedroom. Carefully, Naruto put the bundle of clothes on the sink and turned on the water. As it warmed, he stripped, and then turned the shower on. He sighed as he stepped inside. Hot showers were really the best. He stared at the white wall in front of him as he washed, his thoughts returning over and over again to what he was going to do in an hour or less. Naruto's stomach churned uncomfortably, and he wondered if he would be able to make it out of the house and back home before Itachi could catch him. Probably not, he admitted with a sigh, turning off the shower. He grabbed some towels and dried himself off before walking over to the black bundle on the sink. He stared down at it apprehensively for a moment before unfolding it. Itachi. Itachi smirked from his position on his bed. He knew that Naruto was going to object to his choice of clothing, but really, he could have made it much worse. The club was still a club, no matter if it was one of the more respectable ones out there, and Naruto would look out of place unless he dressed in the clothes Itachi bought for him only a couple of hours earlier. He heard muttering from the bathroom and several bangs that told of Naruto's inexperience with such clothes. Finally, though, there was silence until Naruto said through the door, deadly calm, "No way." "Come out, Naruto-kun," Itachi called calmly. "No way." Naruto screeched, his fake calm abandoned. "Itachi, I can't wear this. I don't know how I even got into this." Itachi smirked. "Just come out so I can look at you, Naruto-kun." There was silence for a while before the door slowly creaked open to reveal a blushing Naruto. Itachi ran his eyes critically over the outfit he picked, and was pleased at how much it fit the blonde. Even after years of declaring himself asexual, Itachi could feel a stir in his lower regions as he looked at Naruto. The blonde was dressed in sinfully tight leather pants. Itachi had picked one a size smaller than Naruto's actual size so that they looked painted on. They outlined every curve and muscle in Naruto's legs, and made them seem longer than they really were. The shirt to match this was a high-collared, sleeveless black shirt with several black straps hanging from the shoulders. It ended a little sooner than it should, leaving a strip of tan skin for the world to see. Itachi could see the edge of the knee-high black boots he'd picked out for the ensemble, and Naruto was also wearing the plain silver choker Itachi had added in. With the black contrasting against his light hair and eyes, Naruto was a sight to see. Itachi smirked smugly. "I'm not wearing this," Naruto said, blushing. "No way." Itachi gave him a look. "Yes, you are. Now come here, we need to blow-dry your hair." Naruto groaned in dismay. He knew that he never should have come here. A half an hour later, Naruto was blow-dried, plucked, and coldy to the extreme. He'd let Itachi play doll on him, but he'd drawn the line at nail polish. Thankfully, Itachi had let it drop. Naruto knew he looked weird enough. He didn't need painted nails on top of it all. In addition to the thick kohl around his eyes, his hair had been pulled up into a short, spiky ponytail. It made him look older, Naruto admitted, but that didn't mean he had to like it. Itachi had gotten dressed soon after Naruto had, and the blonde had to admit that the Uchiha was hot. Dressed in a crimson-red, long-sleeved shirt, black leather pants as sinfully tight as Naruto's, and a crimson choker, Itachi was stunning. Red was most definitely the Uchiha's color. Naruto fidgeted slightly. He knew he had to ask, but he was more than a little nervous. Summoning up his courage, he turned to his companion and said, "Itachi?" The Uchiha looked down at him. "I have a song in mind, but do you think I can use your violin?" Itachi's eyebrow rose to his hairline, making Naruto grin nervously. "I know it's a lot to ask, but your violin looks like it's made well, and this song will probably need that." Naruto hesitated for a moment before adding in a small voice, "And it'll make me feel more content if I play it up there." Itachi noted that Naruto Uzumaki, whether he knew it or not, was a deadly weapon. Even as apathetic as he was, he couldn't deny the large, watering blue eyes or the small, pleading voice. Silently, Itachi nodded and moved to retrieve his violin case. Naruto's face lit up. "Thank you, Itachi!" he cried, taking the case from the older boy and hugging it to his chest. "Now we can go, right?" Big, hopeful blue eyes stared up at Itachi. The black-haired boy shrugged and led them down the stairs. Before they reached the door, Itachi snagged 2 coats, both black leather dusters that Itachi was personally fond of. One, he wrapped around Naruto. The other he used to cover himself. The blonde looked up at him gratefully. "Thanks." Itachi just nodded and led them to the car. The drive to the club was spent mostly in silence. Naruto stared out the window, mentally going over the song he had decided on over and over again. If he was going to do this, he was determined not to make a fool of himself by messing up the notes. As he thought, his hands absently stroked the case of Itachi's violin, an action that didn't go unnoticed by the Uchiha. Itachi was a little confused at his reception to Naruto. The blonde, admittedly, was beautiful, and he was intrigued by him, but Itachi Uchiha did not do attraction. Others were attracted to him, yes, but he'd never been the one to set his sights on someone. But even this rationalizing didn't stop the smug feeling he felt every time he looked over and saw Naruto wrapped up in his duster, stroking his violin case so contentedly. Itachi decided that it was better to just ignore such thoughts. Surely he wasn't feeling possessive of Naruto. The tiniest bit of attraction was there, though Itachi was loath to admit it, but that didn't mean he liked the boy that way. It just meant that he could recognize beauty when he saw it. Itachi blinked and took a sharp turn as he realized he'd nearly passed the club, causing Naruto to jump and yelp. Slightly embarrassed at his lapse of attention, Itachi pulled into a parking space and got out of the car quickly. Naruto followed close behind, the violin case clutched in one hand. Naruto was very curious about this club, and he examined it closely as they came closer. The building itself was plain, old, worn red bricks with no windows to be seen except on the higher-up floors. As they turned to the front, Naruto got the first glimpse that this was actually the place they were coming to. There was a sign above the door. The sign boldly proclaimed Akatsuki in white lettering on a black background. Their logo was that of a red moon on a black sky, bisected by a thin black cloud. Akatsuki was a little bit of an obvious name, in Naruto's opinion, but he had to admit that it made a good name for a club. Naruto, who had never been to a club or even a party his entire life, was overwhelmed the minute they walked into the door. People of all shapes, sizes, and colors danced on the huge dance floor to a pulsing, rocking song that Naruto couldn't even make out the words to. The band playing the song sat on a high stage decorated with lights. Scattered around the edge of the dance floor were dozens of tables where even more people sat, chattering to each other. The entire effect was a crowd much too big, and so much noise that you had to yell in a person's ear to be heard. Itachi took Naruto by the elbow and led him to a side door marked tryouts and admittance. Naruto, still shocked from the sudden noise and movement, followed the Uchiha passively inside. The room was small and secluded, mostly protected from the outside sounds, even if the hum of the music made its way through the walls here as well. Naruto sighed in relief at the quiet. "Itachi!" a voice cried, and Naruto looked up to see a long-haired blonde sitting at the single, small table pushed against the wall. The blonde was dressed in completely black clothes. The only color was the small red cloud on the right breast of his shirt. "I didn't know you were coming here today. Who's your friend?" Warm blue eyes looked at Naruto curiously. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki," he said uncomfortably. He looked up at Itachi. "I suppose I'm here to perform?" "Well, no need to sound so hesitant, Naruto," the blonde said cheerfully. "I'm Deidara Iwa. Now, what were you think of playing?" Naruto fidgeted. The devil went down to Georgia, actually, he admitted, causing Deidara to look at him in surprise. "If you could spare a couple of players that would be helpful," he added, shifting under the blonde's stare. "You can play that?" Deidara asked. "You can play the fiddle part?" "One." "Yeah," Naruto admitted. "Is it alright for me to play it?" "Yeah," Deidara exclaimed. "Fuck, Toby loves that song, it's perfect. Let me go call them in right now." He hurried out of the room, leaving Naruto to blink stupidly after him. Itachi looked down at him with a raised eyebrow and Naruto sighed at the silent question. "I figured if I had to do this, I might as well do it with a bang," he admitted. Itachi smirked. Deidara came back into the room with 3 people following him, a short kid with spiky black hair and dark eyes that looked eerily like an Uchiha. Naruto resisted the impulse to look between the kid and Itachi just to make sure, an equally short, apathetic redhead that reminded Naruto of Gaara, and a man with too many piercings to be healthy that had, obviously, dyed orange hair. They were all dressed in the same clothing as Deidara, only the kid had anything extra. Naruto was amused to see he was wearing a black backwards baseball cap with red clouds decorating it. "You're the one that wants to play the devil went down to Georgia?" the kid asked, bouncing on his toes, looking at Naruto. The blonde nodded. "Wow. And your first time too? You've got guts, kid," he said admiringly. Naruto was torn between pride at the compliment and indignation at being called a kid by one of the rare people that was shorter than him. "You sure you're up to it?" the pierced man asked, staring down at Naruto with sharp blue eyes. "Akatsuki isn't forgiving when it comes to screw-ups. If you mess up badly, it's likely you'll never be well received again here." Naruto shrugged. This is a one-time thing, he told the man. So it doesn't matter to me if I screw up. I just need to prove to myself that I can do it. The man smirked. I'm Pain, by the way, the bar's owner. Naruto's eyes widened and he bowed slightly. Pain's smirk widened. You must be Japanese too, huh? When I met Itachi's little brother, I got the same reaction. But on to important matters, your bandmates will be Sasori, he gestured to the redhead, Toby, the kid, and Deidara, whom you've already met. You're playing in 10 minutes, so you might want to warm up a little. And I'll be watching, Pain winked for good measure. Alright, Naruto said, a little nervously. Pain was somewhat intimidating, anyone who could get that many piercings was scary, but Naruto was more scared of the thought that he would be performing in 10 minutes. The uncomfortable knot in his belly tightened. Itachi rested a hand on Naruto's shoulder. You'll be fine, he soothed, ignoring the Akatsuki employee's surprised looks. Naruto smiled up at him, warmed by Itachi's concern. Yeah, I think I will be, he said. He turned to the others. Is there a room I can warm up in? He asked. Yeah, Deidara answered. Just follow me. Nodding goodbye to the other Akatsuki employees, and Pain, Naruto followed Deidara into a series of rooms connected to the first, outer room he'd entered. These are all practice rooms designed for both employees and customers, Deidara explained. I think room 10 should be open, so you can go in there. I'll come and get you when it's time to go on stage. What do you play? Naruto asked curiously as they approached the end of the rooms. Deidara stopped in front of the last door and pulled out a ring of keys. I'm on the drums, Deidara answered. Toby is on the accordion, and Sasori plays bass guitar. We all play more than that, though. How long have you been playing violin? Deidara led him inside the room. My mother taught me the basics when I was 5, Naruto answered, following him inside. But I haven't been able to play until last year. The room was plain and white, with a couple of stands and chairs in the corner. Deidara raised an eyebrow. You haven't played for that long, but you can play a song like The Devil Went Down to Georgia? He asked. Naruto shrugged uncomfortably, not answering. Deidara eyed him for a moment before sighing and turning to leave. I'll be back to get you in 5, he said as he closed the door. Naruto nodded and waited until he was sure the other blonde left before opening the violin case. The violin inside was a beautiful creation, nothing but the best for Itachi, Naruto supposed. Its case was also well made, crushed black velvet that was only marred by a name written in white Amaterasu. Naruto wondered if that was the violin's name. He dragged over a chair and carefully took the violin out of its case. He picked up the bow as well and rosined it, too, efficiently. He practiced the notes that he knew he'd have the most difficulty on, and was pleased to find that the song worked well on Itachi's violin. The violin bridge was the tiniest bit flatter than normal violins, making it easier for Naruto to play the quick, tricky fiddle part that accompanied The Devil Went Down to Georgia. 3. By the time he tuned up the instrument, making sure that all of the notes were as pitch-perfect as he could get them, Deidara had reappeared at the practice door, drumsticks twirling idly in one hand. Ready? He asked, and even as Naruto's throat tightened with nervousness, he nodded. He needed to do this, not only because Itachi had pushed him into it, but because he needed to find out for himself if he could play in front of others without breaking down. He followed Deidara out of the practice room and down a few hallways until they entered the stage from the back. Curtains had been pulled across the stage's front, blocking the players' movements from view as they set up. You'll be here, Deidara said, leading Naruto to the microphone at the very front of the stage. Naruto gulped and his hand tightened on Itachi's violin. Deidara, seemingly seeing the nervousness in his face, clapped a hand on Naruto's shoulder. You'll be fine, he said cheerfully.